So I was doing Today Was a Day When yesterday. And today in 1981, David, Endless Love was released. Diana Ross and Lionel Richie.
Right.
It is Billboard's greatest duet song of all time. Exactly.
Better than Michael and McCartney, Ebony and Ivory. Better than
That's what I said. And it may be.
Yeah, I guess it's possible. I mean, you know, the one was a superstar and the other was a star. I mean, people forget. I mean, you know, we don't because we were old enough, but I mean, between first the songs that he wrote for others and then what he did for the Commodores and for himself. I mean, Lionel Richie had a 12-year run there that was ridiculous.
Lionel Richie's stupid rich.
And he should be.
But I mean stupid rich. Like he's might be approaching the B status.
It's kind of like, you know, when you it's honestly, it's like if you were to ever go to a Barry Manilow concert.
Right.
A, he does an hour and 40 minutes and you know every song. And then B, when he does his little 8-minute, all the jingles that he wrote, and he mixes it in with, you know, a couple of songs that he wrote for others, you're like, oh, crap.
And I also blame France today. Today was a day when they, for the first country to use the metric system.
Oh, God. It's another, I mean, man, they were really there for us when we needed them, though. But man, have we been paying the price ever since. Golly. It's a statute of limitations for 1777 in Saratoga. My God. How many years of your life did the metric system cost you in school? Cost me seemingly my whole grade school experience.
It was easy. That was the only thing about it. Metric was easy.
Yeah, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. It was right. That part was easy.
Really good, Ambient. Happy to be here. God willing, we'll come out with a win.
Just put our uniform on one pant leg at a time. I just hope the lightning bolt avoids both of us right now. Morning, baby Jules, Steve, Ambient. Am I going to Kinnick in November? I don't know if I'm going in November. And I'm not going to Kinnick in September. I'm going to Happy Valley. I want to do the Black Friday. I want to do a doubleheader this year. I want to, because CBS has got a Big Ten game on Black Friday, and then they've got, you know, probably the Iron Bowl. And
I want to go to Kinnick in September.
Here we go.
Okay.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you on this first day of August. Hope your week got off to a good start. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network. FloridaSportsNetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. Whoo! That's the word of the morning. Whoo! The U.S. women's national team survives. Whew. Was that close? Keep playing like this. They ain't going to be playing much longer. But they get through, Mark. You and I are hockey guys. All right. Goalie needs to go over and kiss that post, baby. U.S. survives 0-0 with Portugal. That's enough to get us through. But in stoppage time, Portugal hits the post. Yikes. So there you go. I was up, by the way. 3:20, mid first half, I woke up.
I saw 1.5 minutes of stoppage time.
You just missed the post, I think.
I did. They were freaking out when I turned it on.
Yep.
I would have seen it had I not had to take the dog out. Dog takes precedent over the U.S. women's national team at 4:30 in the morning.
I understand. That's because dog could leave present. And there's really nothing that the U.S. women's national team could leave for you that would make up for the present that the dog could leave you. But, yep. Little 3 a.m. start. Guessing most of you missed it. Curious how many of you got up and watched the second half or turned it on late, realized the situation and realized, oh, man, we're in trouble.
Or how many of you, when David went the word of the day, went, what the hell is he talking about?
And then there's that as well. Magic numbers, 25, 30, and 37. Also 14. 14 days away until our fantasy football summit with Dr. Roto. Make sure you go to FloridaSportsNetwork.com and sign up because seating is limited. First 50, and that's it. Don't think we're expanding it. So get in on it. 2 weeks tonight. Bell Tower Shops, Crown Plaza, Shoeless Joe Sports Cafe in Fort Myers, 7 o'clock. Then you can take all the info and your cheat sheets and what have you and go do your draft and win your fantasy league. Yeah. But 25 days until week 0, 30 until week 1 of the college football season, 4 weeks from Thursday, 5 weeks from Thursday, 37 days away from Lions and Chiefs. And Mark, college football landscape could be very different by the time we do a show tomorrow.
Well, there is no doubt the Pac-12 having their big meeting today. Arizona is going to be sitting there with 1 foot out the door and 1 foot in the door, deciding on whether or not this meeting's good enough for them to stay in the conference. All indications are it's not.
And depending on who you believe, Arizona State and Utah are saying, hey, hold that door open for us. See, here's the funny thing. So the Pac-12's having their meeting. And then Arizona's Board of Regents have already called an emergency meeting for 3:30 in the afternoon Pacific time. Well, the Board of Regents in Arizona oversees not just the University of Arizona. They oversee Northern Arizona and Arizona State University. So in theory, Mark, 2 teams could decide in that meeting that they want out. What do you do if you're the Big 12? I mean, if Arizona State and Utah are like, hey, you got room for us? Do you go, no, we're good? Or do you say, oh, yeah, well, let's bury this Pac-12. It's over. I mean, think about it. That's half the conference be leaving after this year. I mean, come on now. It's no longer a major conference.
No, it's not. I'm David, I still haven't answered your first question because I'm more interested in that one. I get what you're saying. If the Big 12 says yes, David, you're right. What's left? The conference is done. Are we certain that the Big 12 is going to say yes to Arizona State and Utah?
No, we're not certain at all. It's one of the reasons why we're having Greg Swaim on the show at a little past 8:30. He's as strong a source and voice and information guy on what the conferences want and the TV dynamics involved, et cetera, as anybody out there. And so we were able to book him, and today's going to be a wild day. And then we turn our attention to schools that want to leave the ACC and what the heck Oregon and Washington are going to do if they're stuck in a conference that's disintegrating before their eyes. Hell, we haven't gotten to Stanford yet. I mean, no offense to Oregon State, Washington State, and Cal, but I mean, Stanford's kind of a prestigious university. They just won that whole Sears Learfield best damn athletic department in the country award for like the 4th time in 5 years. It's because they win all the Olympic sports that nobody pays attention to. But they're really good at a lot of sports. And apparently it's going to be like, yeah, just whatever. Just do whatever you want, wherever you want. We're done with you. So the word is apparently the best the commissioner of the Pac-12, Mark, can do is about $20 million a year and all but one game a week streaming. I'm not sure the network that apparently is going to show like a Pac-12 game of the week. But apparently he's got a deal in which it's going to be all streaming except for a Pac-12 game of the week somewhere. I don't know if that's CW or what. But is that enough? If you're a Pac-12 school, if you're Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, $20 million, when Colorado just got 31.7 to go to the Big 12. UCF is going to get between 18 and 21 while they're playing out their probation, if you will, with the Big 12 for 2-3 years. So they get a full share.
Conference has literally disintegrated before our eyes. And it didn't have to. I mean, that's the thing of this. This was something Larry Scott, the previous commissioner of the conference, I don't know what you should do to the guy, but this is on him. The new conference commissioner is fighting, trying to keep this conference alive, but Larry Scott's the one that screwed this up.
12 years ago, the Pac-12 had Oklahoma and Texas wanting to join them. The Pac-12 said no. The Big 12 was that close to going away. Missouri and A&M were leaving. Texas and Oklahoma were on the phone, having negotiated with the Pac-12. And the Pac-12 at the end of the day said, no, we're good for now. We'll get back to you. As sports decisions go, Larry Scott in the Pac-12 12 years ago with Texas and Oklahoma, Van de Velde's 2-iron at the Open. I mean, honestly, sports decisions that we're going to look back on. Chris Webber's timeout was a better decision. I mean, we can go right down the list here. Remember, it's decisions. They made a conscious decision that, I don't know. They seem to want too much. And I mean, do we really need them? I don't know. We're good. Why don't you guys just keep on keeping on? Nebraska, you can go to the Big Ten, and, the Big 12 is probably going away anyway.
And clearly the Big 12 will be the third conference, but it's still a conference.
Right. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this is like, the Olympics back in the 70s and 80s. You got the U.S. and the Soviet Union who are competing for the golds and the silvers. And then it's just a matter of, hey, that East German got the bronze. Or, hey, look at that. The Canadian was able to get the bronze. Good for them.
And I only say third because I don't know what the hell's going to happen with the ACC.
Right. I mean, we know what a few schools want to have happen to the ACC. But it's complicated. We've got time to deal with the ACC, although we will ask Greg Swaim about that. He's got some info that, and Greg not only does his own show, but he's kind of sort of involved with conferences, and he's got relationships with like every single level of college athletics. So he knows a lot of people. That's why his information's better than most, as Gary Koch would say about a Tiger Woods putt back in the day.
But no putting today. Well, we may putt our way out of a conference or two.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, who knows? We may get to what John Rahm had to say in a podcast that he did, which just eviscerates the PGA Tour.
We will go to Indianapolis and talk to Andrew Moore. He covers the Colts for SI. Anything going on with the Colts?
Man, they're a fun team. For a bad team, they are fun. They are fun. They drafted the most controversial quarterback. We have no idea if this guy's going to be fantastic or Trey Lance.
And no one there cares right now because their running back and owner are in a dispute.
Right. And the guy that they had lined up to replace the running back broke his arm yesterday, and he's not going to be ready for opening day. So they got nobody worth a damn to run the ball.
Alex Golesh, the head coach at USF, will join us in the 8 o'clock hour. And the aforementioned Greg Swaim will join us to talk conference realignment, which is all in a tizzy again.
I haven't even gotten to baseball. Rays Marlins, big series. Trade deadline is less than 12 hours away.
Goodness, the Rays already made a trade.
I need a seatbelt. So excited.
So strap in, because there is a lot to get through in today's sports world, from college football to pro football to the baseball trade deadline. We'll cover all of it. The starting five is 25 minutes away. Thanks so much for listening to Miller and Moulton right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Hello, friends and family of Southwest Florida. Are you looking to tap into the electric vehicle market? Well, look no further, because we here at Southwest Florida Golf Carts have just what you need. E-bikes, golf carts, LSVs, scooters, and more. Come down and talk with one of our experienced sales reps, have a soda and a smile, and you could be cruising the streets in your new EV today. Stop by the store or visit our website at flgolfcarts.com and enter for a chance to win $100 off your next purchase by answering John's monthly sports question.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
First off, Jeff, top of the morning to you. Hope you and the family are well. The Pac-12 Air Lift, not to be confused with the Air Raid. Here's a serious question. Not that many of you care. So if you're San Diego State and a few other schools, you really want to join the Pac-12?
Well, that's my question, David.
Or do you just say to Oregon State, Washington State, and maybe Stanford and Cal, why don't you join us? We'll call it a day. Here's the other thing. There was talk of like the ACC and the Pac-12 merging in some way, shape, or form. Who's the ACC going to want?
You know, and I was thinking about this whole Florida State and Clemson to the Big Ten thing. I know from the president's standpoint, there's no chance. However, Fox may open up their bank accounts again for that.
I don't think ESPN will let it happen. I think ESPN will say, we'll figure out a way. Because right now ESPN has Florida State and Clemson. They go to the Big Ten, they lose them.
That's what I'm saying. If that that's my whole thing. If Fox is running the Big Ten the way they might be, that is a better chance than we gave it yesterday. That's all I'm saying.
DC, take it easy. All right, I love Corey Stringer. I know you threw the word possibly in there, but tough to get in the Hall of Fame as a right tackle. Nowadays. Like Ron Yeri, I think, got in as a right tackle, but it's hard. Much easier on the other side. Hey, even Andy Staples jumped on the Florida State leaving the ACC thing yesterday with a comment.
What did he say? I didn't see it.
He tweeted out, he goes, yeah, I know it's going to be really expensive to leave, but can you afford to stay?
Ten seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour, top of the morning to you. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. It's August. College football kicks off this month. Heck, the Hall of Fame game is 2 days away for those of you that are either just jonesing so much to see guys hit each other in helmet and shoulder pads, or you're a degenerate gambler and you need something else to bet on. Can we, by the way, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you bet on the Hall of Fame game, where do you think you rank as a degenerate gambler? On a scale of 1 to 10.
37.
Thank you. And I know some of you can't wait. Cleveland and the Jets. Of course, none of the Browns or Jets are really going to play, but that's okay. Andrew Moore covers the Colts. He'll join us a little more than an hour. Alex Golesh is the head coach at South Florida. He'll join us top of the 8 o'clock hour. Greg Swaim in a couple hours to talk conference football realignment. But another big day in baseball yesterday. First off, bunch of sexy series. That's right. A baseball series can be sexy. I'll defend it. I don't know if Mark thinks so, but I'll defend it.
Once you're in August, it can be. I don't know if last night kind of. But now we're in August. I'll let last night slide because these are big boy series as we're starting to make a playoff run.
Reds, Cubs, Phillies, Marlins, Rays, Yankees, Orioles, Blue Jays, Arizona, San Francisco. I mean, we bunch of playoff teams here battling each other. Hell, even Cleveland and Houston. Getting carried away with myself. But the heck with that. We got trades. Guys are moving. They're calling their wives saying, honey, we're headed to Cleveland. Or we're headed to St. Pete. Rays made a trade. Yep. Right around the time their fans were saying, what the heck? Everybody's making a deal but us. Rays went out and got a really good starting pitcher, Aaron Savale from the Guardians. And they've got him for this year and 2 more. And he's cheap and good. But they gave up a top 5 prospect to do it.
They did. They did. But it's a first baseman whose spot they've got locked in for through 25.
Right. Okay.
He hasn't signed through 25. So,
they got a guy and then just kind of like, yeah, maybe we can afford to give up this bat to get this arm. Savale's 28, by the way. So think about it. They'll have him for the rest of 28, 29, and 30. ZRA is 2.34 as the starting pitcher. It's pretty good. So the Rays made a deal. Significant one. Are they done? Who knows? Marlins lost out on the third baseman for the Nats. Candelario went to the Cubs. Came down to the Cubs, Marlins, and Angels. Sounds like the Marlins finished second. Cubs gave up 2 top 20 prospects, a single A shortstop and a double A pitcher. Just for a rental at third base who's having a career year. Okay. I mean, the price is not cheap. It's just
that's
like
what
us.
GMs have to fight with all day today, is that you have a handful of sellers and you have a group of buyers. Are you willing to pay the price on the deadline day?
Right. Deadline 6 o'clock tonight. That's just off the field. On the field, did the Rays help bury the Yankees? Did the Yankees become just flat sellers today? Do they even buy anybody worth a damn? Yankees have now struck out 30 times in their last 2 games. You know when's the last time they did that? Never. Right. I'm sure glad they fired that hitting coach over the All-Star break. That Sean Casey's made a huge difference. I mean, remember, he came in, basically said, I'll take these guys, so we'll be the 27 Yankees. Give me a couple weeks. Oh, they're going to be the 27 Yankees, the 2027 Yankees at this rate. Man, oh man, this is an old team. Not doing well. Lost again last night. Rays held them to 3 hits.
Well, that's the other. It's not just losing. They have no production whatsoever. They used to be a scary team. You'd get up there and pitch against the Yankees, and you were scared at their lineup. There's not much. You got Aaron Judge, and that's it.
Hence the nickname, the Bronx Bombers. See, that's how scary they used to be. 100 years worth of holy blank. I don't want to pitch to them. They're the Bronx Bombers. Yeah, the Rays hit more homers last night than the Yankees had hits. I don't know what's a bigger story, though, in Miami. A, the Marlins lost. All right. Bummer. Did you see the attendance?
Terrible.
Did you see the attendance?
I saw it. I watched the game.
Why in the world are we even talking about this team?
I have no idea.
That was the conclusion I came to after last night. Obviously, they don't give a damn. I mean, come on. I mean, you came out to see Miguel Cabrera over the weekend, and you're not going to come out to see him play the Phillies? You know what team they're battling with for the playoffs? How many times have you made the playoffs? You've been around 30 years. I can answer that question for you. 3. Are you serious?
You dubbed this the biggest series ever played in Lone Depot Park. That's what you dubbed it yesterday.
I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong.
9808.
9808. There's not a 1 in front of that, by the way, because that's what it should have been. Should have been 19,808. 9,808 showed up last night for the biggest regular season game to date in the history of that ballpark. There's a part of me, you know what? There's a part of me that wants the Phillies to sweep them. Honestly, you know what? Then we could just put this sucker to bed. Just be done with them.
You turned on him yesterday, didn't you?
That really bothered me. You know how? Because first off, and this long-winded, and I don't know how much time we have, but like you and I are hockey guy. Okay, and for 40 years, we were pounding the table about how great hockey is. No, there's really a lot of fans. You got to check it out, blah, 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 blah. And there were times we were proven wrong, but there were times in which we were really proven right. Soccer guy, okay, for 20, 30 years, pounding the table. No, there's really a lot of people worldwide, blah, 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 blah. Okay. And I thought that there was just a core. You know, the old joke in New York, there's 18,000 Rangers fans, but they all show up at the games. I thought there'd be 18,000 Marlins fans.
You have a lot more faith in Marlins fan than, well, the Marlins do.
Most of the people there were probably Phillies fans.
Listen, if I'm Bruce Sherman and I own the team, honestly, I got to sell. No, this ain't working. It's never going to work. I got a good team.
That's a great question.
I got a good team and a good ballpark. By the way, with great food and great sight lines. Unbelievable. 9808. Hope you lose the rest of your games, honestly. That's a disgrace. Miller and Moulton.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Hello, friends and family of Southwest Florida. Are you looking to tap into the electric vehicle market? Well, look no further, because we here at Southwest Florida Golf Carts have just what you need. E-bikes, golf carts, LSVs, scooters, and more. Come down and talk with one of our experienced sales reps, have a soda and a smile, and you could be cruising the streets in your new EV today. Stop by the store or visit our website at flgolfcarts.com and enter for a chance to win $100 off your next purchase by answering John's monthly sports question.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Felipe, how'd the move go?
It's not done, but pretty good. All is well.
It's not done. Did you have to be out of there on the 31st?
Well, yeah. Well, no, actually, I don't. My technical move out day of my apartment is the 7th, but we get to move in. We got the keys to the house a couple days early. So, and I took yesterday and today off at Waterman, now Hearst, I should say. So I'm just trying to help out as much as I can while I can. And then I work like 8 straight days, even though right now I'm working every day.
This is interesting to me because, David, I moved a lot when I was his age. It took a couple hours. You put your crap in boxes, you moved it to the new place, and you unloaded it.
Well, I know, but now I'm like, setting up the house, organizing things. I'm very organized. I like
Get dishes go in the...
I like organizing things, and then decorating things,
Well, it does take a lot longer to unpack than it does to move, though.
Yeah. Fold clothes, put them away, whatnot.
Anything different with life at Hearst as opposed to Waterman?
Not really. free stuff they give us.
Oh, wow. They're still being nice to everybody.
Gave every employee a really nice North Face backpack. And a hat. And a water bottle.
Hey!
Just make sure you quit instead of get fired so you don't have to throw all that stuff away. Always easier to wear the stuff when you quit the job and move to the next job as opposed to get fired.
There you go.
I had a lot of 770 ESPN shirts, 99.3 ESPN shirts.
Mm-hmm. I had a lot of Everblade shirts.
Yes, you did.
That's all I wore.
Plus, you had T-shirts, you had golf shirts. I mean, you just 24/7. You were tired. I realized I looked in my closet. I had like 15 golf shirts. 9 of them were to the place that just fired me. I'm like, wow, I got to get some clothes.
How many of you in the Twitch chat room signed up for the Fantasy Football Summit? And RCB, you're right. Brandon Lowe does continue his hot streak. Another home run last night.
It's what so Brandon is Lau and Josh is Low, right?
Correct.
Right. Brandon Lau, Josh Low.
I think that's 4 home runs in his last 6 games.
Well, Steve Carney looking good right now. He stayed with him.
Mm-hmm.
So did the Rays. It's paying off.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the top of the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. We are Miller and Moulton. This is the Florida Sports Network. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com and sign up for our Fantasy Football Summit 2 weeks tonight. Dr. Roto, a meal, some good times to be had, some great information. Go kick butt in your fantasy draft and your fantasy football league this year. Thanks to the Fantasy Football Summit 2 weeks from tonight. Only way you can sign up is going to floridasportsnetwork.com. Great show lined up for you. Talk some NFL, some college football realignment, and we'll hear from the head coach of South Florida once again, Alex Golesh. But first, it's time for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting 5 on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
Team USA advances barely in the Women's World Cup. They needed what they call a result, which is at least a tie. And that was all the red, white, and blue were able to get. Despite out shooting Portugal 17-6 and shots on goal were 6-0. Scoreless in stoppage time, and Portugal hit a post. The U.S. was that close to going home. They advanced with the 0-0 draw. They don't win their group, however. The Netherlands does, because they had 2 wins and a draw, while the U.S. had 1 win and 2 draws. Even if the U.S. had won, the Netherlands would still win the group because of goal differential, because they beat Vietnam 7-0, and we only beat Vietnam 3-0. U.S. likely to play Sunday against Sweden. Sweden would be their opponent as of now. Sweden's been a nemesis for the U.S. women. In fact, they played 2 years ago. Sweden beat them 3-0. Major League Baseball trade deadline, 6 o'clock tonight. A lot of teams were active yesterday, including the Rays. They sent one of their top 5 prospects, first baseman Kyle Manzardo, to the Guardians. But they got back 28-year-old right-handed starter Aaron Savale. He's got a 2.34 ERA, and he's got 2+ years left of control. So the Rays get him for this year and 2 more. Just a straight up man-for-man trade.
Not that we care about the Guardians, David, but are you surprised the Guardians made this move as close as they are to the Twins? I mean, this is not necessarily raising the white flag, but it's certainly hurting your ball club down the stretch for this year.
No, because the Guardians have no offense, and they need bats, and they need controllable bats, and this guy's in AAA. And the only way that they can get it, Mark, is to trade some of their pitching surplus. Now, I'm surprised the Rays were able to make it a 1-for-1 swap. I would think a major league starting pitcher can get more than just a top 5 AAA prospect, if you know what I mean. I would have thought that the Rays would have had to give up more. But good deal for the Rays. Savale expected to start over the weekend. Seattle traded their closer. Mark, you're surprised about the Guardians who made the deal a half a game out of first? Well, Seattle's still very much in the wild card chase, and they traded away their closer, Paul Sewald, to Arizona for 3 hitters, 2 in the majors. Milwaukee acquired outfielder Mark Canha from the Mets for a 23-year-old AA pitcher. Marlins lost out on Nats third baseman Heimer Candelario. The Cubs got him. He's hit 16 homers this year. They had to give up 2 top 20 prospects, however, to get him. And the Giants took on some salary, taking on A.J. Pollock, who's had an awful year from Seattle. But they also pick up utility infielder Mark Mathias. Mark, this is his 4th team this year. This year, it's Mark Mathias' 4th team since late in spring training. By the way, Seattle got back the proverbial player to be named later. That's how much they're like, please take these salaries off our hands, please. Thank you. On the field, Rays went to the Bronx, whooped up on the Yankees. Tyler Glasnow in 7 innings gave up just 3 hits. Meanwhile, the Rays hit 4 homers. One of them from Brandon Lau, who's beginning to turn it around.
Believe that's 4 home runs in his last 6 games.
And he's hitting like 368 since the All-Star break. That's what he came off the injured list. Looks like a good decision for the Rays so far to stick with him. 5-1 Tampa Bay over the Yankees. Rays stay a game and a half behind the Orioles, who went to Toronto and beat the Blue Jays 4-2. Kyle Gibson picked up his 10th win. Felix Bautista was asked to get a 5-out save for the Orioles. He threw 35 pitches, so the closer's likely unavailable the rest of the series. Meanwhile, Toronto remains the 6th seed in the American League playoffs. Boston's 2.5 behind them because they lost to Seattle 6-2. Cal Raleigh hit 2 homers for the Mariners, who are just 3.5, tied with the Yankees, 3.5 out of the wild card. Phillies double up the Marlins 4-2. The Phillies are the 5 seed this morning. The Marlins in a 3-way tie for the final wild card spot with Arizona and Milwaukee. Jorge Soler hit a 2-run homer in the first, and that was it. Taijuan Walker picked up his 12th win. He's the only pitcher in the majors who has 12 wins right now. Nice free agent signing for the Phils. In front of 9,808 in Miami. For the biggest series that this franchise has played in that stadium, which has been open 12 years. Kids don't go back to school for another week and a half. Messi didn't play last night. Neither did the Dolphins. Neither did the Heat. Neither did the Panthers. Neither did the Canes. Ridiculous. Reds went to the north side and beat the Cubs 6-5. Their lead's a game and a half in the Central because Milwaukee lost to Washington. Their 4th straight loss, 5-3. Nats with 3 in the 7th to win it. A reminder, Milwaukee, Arizona, Miami, all tied for the 6th seed right now. Phillies a half a game ahead of them, the 5. Giants a half a game ahead of that, the 4. So 5 teams separated by a game for the 3 wild cards in the National League. Houston beat Cleveland 7-3. The Guardians now a game back of the Twins. Houston with the win moved up to the top wild card spot. They're the 4 seed. Or excuse me, they're the 5 seed. The Rays are the 4. Noah Syndergaard, all right, made his Guardians debut and took a 2-hitter into the 6th and then got hit with a comebacker, had to leave the game, and that's when the Astros scored 4 times and rallied to win. But Syndergaard is on batting practice for a couple years. That was nice to see. Arizona beat San Francisco in 11, 4-3. Giants 2.5 behind the Dodgers. D-backs are 3.5 behind LA. The Angels went to Atlanta, hit 3 solo homers, and beat the Braves 4-1. They're just 3 behind Toronto. So they're ahead of both the Yankees and the Mariners. They're technically the 8th seed right now. Boston 2.5 back to 7. The Angels 3 back to 8. Yankees and Mariners tied for 9th, 3.5 behind Toronto, the final wild card in the American League. And Mark, the Padres had a real opportunity last night.
Sure did. Playing Colorado.
And they had a 3-game winning streak. Do you know what they have not had this year? A 4-game winning streak. They're the only team in baseball that has not won 4 in a row. Hell, the A's won 7 in a row a couple of weeks ago. Colorado beat them in 10, 4-3, snapping the 3-game winning streak. Padres are 5 out in the wild card. They're the 10th seed in the National League. Are you selling if you're AJ Preller today, yes or no?
Yes. I'm certainly selling Hader and Snell.
Well, and Blake Snell is the best pitcher in baseball right now. He's amazing. Amazing. He's given up 6 runs with over 100 strikeouts in like his last 11 appearances. He's tremendous right now. Best pitching of his life. 5 division races in Major League Baseball, all decided by less than 2.5 games. AL West is a half game difference. AL Central's a game. AL East a game and a half. NL Central's a game and a half. NL West is 2.5. The Braves are up by 11.5, but whatever. College football. Pac-12's having a meeting today. Commissioner's going to unveil his TV rights package. Reportedly, it's about $20 million a year, and every game but one is on streaming a week. So the conference is going to be streamed, and then we'll have a Pac-12 football game of the week.
And it's going to be streamlined, too, because everybody's leaving.
Shortly after the meeting, the Arizona Board of Regents has already scheduled their meeting. The Board of Regents in Arizona is not only in charge of the University of Arizona, they're also in charge of Arizona State University. So who knows? There may be more than one Pac-12 school that decides to leave today. Notre Dame, by the way, re-upped their Under Armour deal. How much money is Notre Dame worth, the brand? $100 million over 10 years. $10 million a year just for the logo on the jerseys and what have you. Northwestern's hiring Skip Holtz to be a special assistant to the interim head coach. Oh, don't worry, USFL fans. This will not get in the way of Skip being the Birmingham Stallions head coach in 2024. Don't you worry. He's still a Stallion. That's after he's done being a Wildcat. NFL
Skip going to teach him how to cheat from his dad's book of
well, no.
getting schools on probation?
No, because if he knew how to do that, okay, hell, he'd still be the coach at South Florida and every other place that he's been. No, his dad didn't teach him that. His dad did the all, hey, do as I say, not as I do, all right? My job to put schools on probation, not yours. The Bucks' first-round pick, Kalijah Cansey, remember he strained his calf over the weekend at practice. Turns out that's all it is. And they're going to take it easy with him for a couple of weeks. Don't know how much we'll see of him really till opening day. But it's not like Joe Burrow's, oh, damn, he's injured. We got problems. Apparently he'll be okay. We just got to figure out, make sure it doesn't aggravate it. Denver lost 2 wide receivers yesterday. Tim Patrick, who blew out his knee last year, tore his Achilles yesterday. He's out for the year. And KJ Hamler, turns out he's got pericarditis. That's it's described as a mild heart irritant. You know, it's like when they say it's a mild heart attack. Yeah.
When it's someone else's, right?
Right. Yeah. This is not my heart is irritated. But it's mild. Really? Dallas running back Ronald Jones, the former Buck, is going to be suspended the first 2 games of the year for a PED violation. And things are funny in Indianapolis. Running back Zach Moss. See, he's the guy who's going to play for the holdout Jonathan Taylor. You know, because Taylor's unhappy with his contract. Although he's actually in camp, he's just not going to do anything. And he's threatening not to play. All right. And so Moss then goes out and breaks his arm yesterday on like the first carry in which he was allowed to get hit. And so, now what are the Colts going to do? It's a running back, so probably nothing. Apparently that's the position they suck. No, they're a running back. They're not worth anything. Oh, really? Yeah, sure. Can find another one. Look just like him. All right, good luck. And at 8 minutes before the hour, that was
the Starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
I think I said Jonathan Taylor. I meant Jonathan Stewart. My bad. But so there you go. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. A lot of meat on the bone still as we transition into August.
Well, and I think this Colt situation is something because Irsay's dug his heels in and he won't give Taylor a contract. I mean, we know that Taylor's stuck. But now they lost the other running back.
Uh-huh.
And
remember,
bring somebody else in.
And the offensive line's not as good as it was a few years ago. And what do they have? They have a rookie quarterback. They took 4th overall. What is it that you want? You want a good running game, let them ease into the position. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why it's such a well-run franchise. That's why Peyton Manning has absolutely nothing to do with them since they cut him. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Hello, friends and family of Southwest Florida. Are you looking to tap into the electric vehicle market? Well, look no further because we here at Southwest Florida Golf Carts have just what you need. E-bikes, golf carts, LSVs, scooters, and more. Come down and talk with one of our experienced sales reps, have a soda and a smile, and you could be cruising the streets in your new EV today. Stop by the store or visit our website at flgolfcarts.com and enter for a chance to win $100 off your next purchase by answering John's monthly sports question.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
20 years ago, Jason and I had the idea for a jewelry store like no other. With a vast selection of certified diamonds priced 8 to 12% over cost. A team of individuals who are educated, driven, and believe in cultivating relationships.
Today, we have become one of the largest independent jewelry stores in the country. Todd and I love what we do and are in the store nearly every day, along with our GIA gemologists, master jewelers, custom designers, and non-commissioned diamond consultants, all of which we consider family.
As direct diamond importers, we travel the world, forging relationships and sourcing diamonds. What we love most about our business is that we can call Southwest Florida our home.
If selection, value, and comfort are important to you, give the Diamond District an opportunity. You won't find a better diamond buying experience. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
It's time for Dr. Roto's yearly house call. Tuesday, August 15th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe in Fort Myers. The second annual Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, courtesy of the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. Dr. Roto will give you all the tips, secrets, while answering your questions so you can win in fantasy football. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com. $50 gets you dinner, non-alcoholic drinks, and Dr. Roto. Seating is limited. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com today.
The law firm of Michael F. Hornung has successfully represented the citizens of Southwest Florida for over 30 years. As a former prosecutor, the information I know is information you need to know. If you've been arrested for a DUI, a criminal matter, or involved in an auto accident, call the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. I'm a local attorney with local knowledge to assist you through the process. For a free consultation, call 239-437-0095. That's 239-437-0095. Offices in Fort Worth.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Oh, wow.
Well, he had 2 great years left. Physically, he began to break down at the end of 2014. Remember, Luck and the Colts beat him in the playoffs. And then he was a shell of himself his final year, but was able to ham and egg it to a Super Bowl.
listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Hour 2 of Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday. It's the 1st of August. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Make sure you go to floridasportsnetwork.com. First off, we got a fantasy football summit 2 weeks from tonight. It's the only way you can sign up for it. Fantastic, amazing fantasy information from one of the very best in the business, Dr. Rodo. It'll be you and 50 others, and that's it. Intimate, exclusive night that we put together. It's kind of our thing. Mid-August, 2 weeks tonight. Sign up for it, floridasportsnetwork.com. But also, it's where you go if you miss any part of the show. Like later on this hour, we'll check in on the Indianapolis Colts and the saga going on there, but also how former Gator Anthony Richardson looks so far. South Florida football coach Alex Golesh will join us 1 hour from now. And a little over 90 minutes from now, Greg Swaim, who has as much information and good information as anyone out there about the whole conference realignment extravaganza that apparently is going to get underway in a big way today. And Mark, I ask you, both sides of the issue here. I want you to play commissioner, and then I want you to play university president. So if the Pac-12 in the middle of the day today is going to deliver their what's being reported as $20 million a year, all of it on Apple, maybe one football game a week on what's called linear, some kind of network, whether it's CW or whatever, one network game a week, a Pac-12 game of the week, and the rest of the Pac-12 and all their sports is going to be on Apple, basically. Are you staying, yes or no?
Well, first off, if I'm the commissioner, I'm coming in guns a-blazing. Woohoo! We're the Pac-12, guys, but we've got 9. That means more money for you.
Well, that's one way to argue it. So you're going to be the Pac-9? That's your story? Because I will say then he's got a $240 million deal because he's pitching it as the Pac-12. So now if you divide it by 9, I mean, you know, now all of a sudden you're talking about what? A little under 27 million a team.
First off, I don't think they'd be giving full shares to schools that come in. Maybe they would, but I doubt it. I think the schools that would come in would be much like the way Cincinnati, Houston, UCF went into the Big 12, that there will be conditional members for a couple of years. But David, if I'm the president of Arizona, I'm gone. I mean, I don't even need to be in this meeting today.
Well,
one conference is giving me $32 million. One conference is giving me $20 million. And I don't know what the future of the conference that's giving me $20 million is. I don't know how stable it is.
Okay. If you're Arizona State and Utah, are you also calling the Big 12 up saying, listen, we want out. We're willing to sign today. Will you take us, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I want you to play the Big 12 for a second. Oregon and Washington, who clearly want to go to the Big 10. They clearly want to go with USC and UCLA. And they got Phil Knight behind them. They do. And they've got a little bit of, they've actually done something in this sport. Oregon's played for 2 national championships in the last 12 years. You know, Washington shared a national championship back in the day. All right. And it's a pretty popular program within their former conference. And so they've got a little something going on there. They've got some tradition there. But if the Big 12 gives you an ultimatum today, first off, if you were the Big 12, would you give Oregon and Washington an ultimatum? Listen, today and today only, the invite's open. You come in, yes or no?
I would try to absorb Oregon, Washington, the 2 Arizona schools, and Utah right now.
So then you would be at 16, I believe would be the number, right? Or no, you'd be at 18. You'd be at 18. You'd go from Big 12 to Big 18. You'd bring in 6 Pac-12 schools. And with USC and UCLA leaving, literally there'd be 4 Pac-12 schools left after 2024: Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford, and Cal. Okay. Would you do it if you're the Big 12, even if your assistant commissioner is saying to you, they're just going to use us. They're going to be here 2, 3. I mean, if we get 5 years out of them, it'd be a lot. I got the over under at 3.5, and I'm going under.
That's okay, because I think I can use them. They're 2 schools that'll get ESPN and Fox to give us enough money that we can pay all of our member schools the same amount.
Okay.
That's my thinking, David, that those 2 schools help me get to the $31.8 million per school in my conference.
See, here's my thing. Yeah.
Well, that's the key. I'm not expanding if I can't give equal shares to everybody. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and, we'll talk to Greg Swaim about it in 90 minutes, because he was one of those that said originally the Big 12 could add 4 schools and everybody would still get equal sharing. That kind of money would come in. Then reportedly the number was reduced to 2. That's why for over the weekend, the thought was there's room for Colorado and 1 more. And that school, the leader in the clubhouse, was Arizona. See, here's the other thing. Let's just say I only have enough for full shares if I'm at 16. Would you take Oregon and Washington, even if it's only for 2 to 3 years, at the expense of losing potentially forever Arizona State and Utah?
It's a great question.
Because that could be a very realistic scenario. Oregon and Washington desperately would want out of this lame Pac-12, okay? But they would be using the Big 12 to get somewhere else, and everybody would know it.
The other question is, what if they don't take Oregon and Washington? What if Oregon and Washington are hell-bent on the Big 10, they're not trying the Big 12, and
Right.
4 conferences, 3 teams go from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, and you're sitting there with the 2 Oregon schools, the 2 Washington schools, Stanford and Cal.
Right. And then you're adding a bunch of members. And you might go back to being the Pac-10, by the way. You might not even be a Pac-12 anymore. And then you're arguing with Apple as if to say, you still going to keep the full $240 million on the table? Because if so, that'd be great. Because then, our schools would now get $24 million instead of 20. And actually, if we bring in the new members and we only give them like half shares, I mean, we can give Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Cal, and the like, we can give them close to $30 million. That'd make them really happy. I mean, we all know you'd be keeping Oregon and Washington. I mean, they'd be using you the same way that they'd be using the Big 12. But the other part, and we'll ask Greg Swaim this in about 90 minutes. Let's just say you've got room for 16 if you're the Big 12. Financially, you can pay everybody $31.7 million with 16. You've gotten ESPN and Fox to say, okay, we'll give you the money for 4 more. That's it. So Arizona comes today to join Colorado at 14. Why don't you go east? Is this when you make the phone call to Florida State and Clemson and you go, now or never?
How do you answer that phone call if you're Florida State and Clemson, by the way? Because my initial thought they would be saying never.
I believe so, because basically all the money they'd get from the Big 12, they'd have to hand over to the ACC. Because there's a report out there that a $300 million settlement could be reached and they could pay him $30 million a year for 10 years. Of course, if the conference goes out of business, do you still have to pay them? That to me is an interesting question, because that could very well happen as well. By the way, if I'm the Mountain West, I'm ready to make some phone calls this afternoon too. I'm calling Oregon State, Washington State. Hell, I'm even calling Oregon and Washington. And I'm just saying, listen, you could just spend 2 years with us. Don't worry about it. Okay, it's scheduling wise, we'll make it real easy. Everybody's right around you. And we know you're going to the Big 10, and we don't care. We're fine with it.
Would you pay him substantially more to come to the Mountain West?
No, I wouldn't.
Then you probably wouldn't get him.
No, well, put it this way. I'd pay him what the Pac-12 was offering him to stay.
Okay.
That I would do. I'd say, tell you what, I'll give you the $20 million. That I will do. I'll give you each $20 million to come with us. Because this will get our games, on the air. It's Phil Knight, it's Nike, the Fox and ESPN have to kiss his butt. Absolutely. So yeah, totally. We'll give you $20 million. Hell, I may even find a way to give you 25. I'll find an extra 10
Well, you'd have
million.
to find a way. I mean, I know, but just say I'm the Mountain West. I'm going to pick up the phone and call is one thing. You don't have the money to bring these schools in.
I understand.
You'd have to get them to negotiate a new deal for you, and I'm not sure everybody's going to line up to give the Mountain West a new television deal.
Well, the funny thing is it'd be CBS. CBS is the Mountain West. I think CBS would be like, really? Because there's a clause in there. They had schools like this. They got to renegotiate. CBS now would be like, ooh, this property's got a little meat on the bone to it. Well, we just got Mountain West rights because we just needed stuff to put on CBS Sports Network. We could actually put night games on CBS if we're going to have Oregon and Washington for a couple of years. Hell, you want to give us a little Stanford action? This would be fantastic. I mean, every other year we get Notre Dame and Stanford. We could do that. This is some of what's out there today. Don't think these calls are not being made. Don't think this is not what's being bantied about. And reportedly, the Big 12 has given the Pac-12 schools an August 1st deadline. That's why the Pac-12 commissioner is having to show his cards today. He clearly doesn't want to. He wanted a better deal than this for his membership. But the Big 12 has said to the Pac-12 schools, August 1st, we got to move on. We have a conference to run. Are you coming, yes or no? We've sat by for a year. We're not waiting any longer.
And what happens to the rest of the Pac-12? There was talk of ACC and Pac-12 mergers.
Right. A super conference, coast to coast. Football, basketball, and the like.
Seems like a desperate plea from what's left of the Pac-12 to try to save the rest of their membership.
Could also be a bit of desperation to keep the ACC together. There are a lot of people that believe, listen, the ACC is dead too. As currently constructed, the ACC is dead. So this is all being bantied about today. And it's all going down today.
Yeah, hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
20 years ago, Jason and I had the idea for a jewelry store like no other. With a vast selection of certified diamonds priced 8 to 12% over cost. A team of individuals who are educated, driven, and believe in cultivating relationships.
Today, we have become one of the largest independent jewelry stores in the country. Todd and I love what we do and are in the store nearly every day, along with our GIA gemologists, master jewelers, custom designers, and non-commissioned diamond consultants, all of which we consider family.
As direct diamond importers, we travel the world, forging relationships and sourcing diamonds. What we love most about our business is that we can call Southwest Florida our home.
If selection, value, and comfort are important to you, give the Diamond District an opportunity. You won't find a better diamond buying experience. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
at the Diamond District.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Ow.
Jeff, that's one of the questions we're Greg Swaim.
Plug that. You're kind of breaking up.
God damn it. How's that?
That's fine.
Jeff, that's one of the questions we're going to ask Greg Swaim, whether or not it's just two schools, Colorado and one other, or whether it's four, or if they get certain schools, like Oregon and Washington. So
So the Pac-12 meets at 3?
no.
Or Arizona meets at 3. Pac-12 meets at noon?
Pac-12, Arizona meets at 3:30 Mountain, 5:30 our time. Yes, I believe.
DC, they haven't been for a decade.
Well, DC, if you're getting 12 million more a year, do you think your travel costs are 12 million? Your increase? No, it's probably just a few million.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll get back into the conference realignment talk with Greg Swaim in a little more than an hour. Alex Golesh, the South Florida football coach, joins us at the top of the hour. We'll talk some NFL in a little more than 15 minutes. We'll head to Indianapolis. They got an interesting little thing going on. Anthony Richardson, a quarterback, generating some excitement, but then their best player and the owner publicly squabbling. So we'll talk about both with Andrew Moore coming up a little more than 15 minutes time.
Text line is open at 21,000-21,000 if you want to chime in on the show, or you can always take in the show at twitch.tv/Miller and Moulton and join the Twitch crew in their constant diatribe that's going on during the show.
So I asked you the question earlier. If you're Florida State and Clemson and the Big 12 calls up today and they say, listen, we got 2 spots for you. We'll give you a full share, 31.7. And for those curious, the ACC deal is $240 million divided by 14 teams. That's about $17 million a school from ESPN. Now, there's other money that comes in, you know, the CW deal, and there's other stuff and NCAA tournament money. And so, you know, the school ends up getting like $30 million, but their primary money comes from the ESPN deal. It's just $17 million a year. And that goes through 2036. And there's no incentive for ESPN to open up the deal. So if the ACC is offering Florida State 17 and change, and the Big 12 says, we'll give you 31.7 right now, but we need to know. And we certainly need to know before you kick off against LSU, but got to admit, I kind of like an answer this week. Mark, let's just assume somehow, some way they can actually get out of their whole grant of rights fiasco.
Let's just say it's for the $300 million.
Yeah.
And at least there's a number out there being discussed that makes a little bit of sense.
And somehow, some way, the Big 12's negotiating it with Fox and ESPN and their other member schools, in which to say, listen, to get Florida State and Clemson, we're all going to chip in here. We're all going to get them out of their deal. If you're Florida State, you leaving for the Big 12? If they can guarantee you, by the way, 14 to 15 million more a year in money, are you leaving? I need an answer by Friday.
Yeah, I know. And this is a really difficult decision. But I think for more money, you have to leave.
Okay. So, listen, to me, you've called Sankey and Mark Womack over at the SEC, and you're like, so I know what you've said publicly. What's the deal? Would you take us, yes or no? If we can get out, or we're willing to take the $300 million risk, are you going to take us, yes or no? Because we ain't going the UConn route here. We ain't going independent. Are you taking us, yes or no?
And David, while I agree with you that the Big Ten university presidents would never want Clemson and Florida State. We discussed this yesterday on the show. David, you are 1,000% right. The only thing I thought of in the last 24 hours about this, and, you know, of course I did it when we weren't on the air, because that's when you want to have a thought like that, is when you're not in front of a microphone, which you're paid to talk in front of for 4 hours. But the only thing that hit me yesterday, David, was, are the Big Ten's presidents running the Big Ten, or is Fox running the Big Ten? Because if Fox is running the Big Ten and they say we can steal Clemson and Florida State from ESPN, would they dump the money into it to make it happen? Take the presidents out for a second, because I know you're right. I won't argue that point. The Big Ten presidents would never want to bring in Clemson and Florida State from an economic standpoint. They just wouldn't. If Fox is running the Big Ten Would they?
And I'm not dodging the question. Here to me is Oregon, Washington, Florida State, Clemson, anybody else's problem. Big Ten's waiting on Notre Dame. All right. The Big Ten is wanting the ACC to fall apart. And then they're going to sit back and they're going to say to Notre Dame, you have till Friday. This is the last time. Third time's the charm, okay? You come in, yes or no? That's the word that's out there. That the reason the Big Ten is stopping at USC and UCLA is we're waiting on Notre Dame. What have we talked about? What school potentially out there could actually add value? And while we think very highly of Florida State, Miami has some value, Clemson has some value, Oregon has value because of Nike. Okay, I mean, come on. The school is Notre Dame. And they certainly ain't going to the SEC. And they ain't going to the Big 12. So if they're joining a conference, it's either they're going to save the ACC, the scenario we came up with 2 months ago, where they could be the saviors of the ACC and make more money in the ACC than they could if they joined any other conference. Because without them, the conference doesn't exist. Our plan, by the way, is Notre Dame gets the first $100 million. The rest of the schools divvy up whatever the rest is. What choice do they have? Notre Dame would make more money than any school in the country.
But the ACC schools would then make a lot more money as well because the contract would get renegotiated.
Exactly. $240 million would become $400 million. So those that stayed would do well. Now, we believe that Notre Dame joins this conference after Florida State, Clemson, and what have you leave. Okay. They want to join a conference they're going to dominate and get paid in. Thank you very much.
Felipe, time for the play of the day. What do you got for us today?
Braves hosting the Angels, and it looked like Shohei was about to have his 40th home run of the season, but that center field warning track is Michael Harris territory.
And that's hit to deep center field. Michael Harris is going back. Harris is at the wall. Harris goes up, and Harris brings it back. He just robbed Shohei Ohtani.
So they are at second and third, but Harris taking one away from Shohei.
It wasn't enough, though, because the Angels won. The Angels are beating the Braves. What is that? They just took their second straight game over them?
Well, they're also, I believe, 13-6 since the All-Star break. I think they have the best record in baseball since the All-Star break.
Come on now.
And they have beaten some good teams here.
I think every baseball fan on earth, including fans in the AL West, want to see at least Shohei play one playoff game.
Oh, wouldn't you? Also, by the way, if they sneak in, they're probably sneaking in as the 6, which means they play the AL Central champions. You'd get the Angels against the Twins or the Guardians. I mean, in a best of 3, Trout and Ohtani in a best of 3. They'll probably have a better record than whoever wins the Central. I mean, they'd probably be a slight favorite to win the series. And then we'd see them in the next round, and then they'd play as the 6 seed. They'd probably play the winner. Well, let's see, they'd play the 2 seed. So they played their AL West champion, most likely, Texas or Houston.
It would be Shohei's first playoff and Mike Trout's second, because in his first playoff, he got swept in a 5-game series. And that was 2016.
And there's our play of the day on Miller and Moulton. A little baseball, even outside of the baseball hour. Man, I can't wait for some football highlights.
Thursday night, baby. Hall of Fame game. Bunch of guys you don't know. About 4 you recognize. You can bet it. It counts. The injuries count.
Do they count in the Hall of Fame game since no starters will play?
The injuries count.
Still count.
The injuries count, yes. Absolutely. Andrew Moore. He's dealing with some Colts injuries. He covers them. He'll talk to us next. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa. Or if you're doing your Napa filters.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Hey, Felipe, did you get my text yesterday? Yeah, it was about we're not running Napa spots anymore.
Oh,
We're not running Clutch Vodka and Napa spots anymore.
okay. I got you.
Literally delete them out of the system.
All right, I will right now. Sorry about that.
Nope. I know, Michael. Carly Lloyd crushed the U.S. women's national team. Crushed them. Said Alex Morgan should be benched. Said they're not concerned about winning. They're concerned about everything else.
How old is Alex Morgan now?
Don't know. I know she's in her
34.
30s. She's what?
34.
34. Damn. That makes me feel old.
By the way, I think, Felipe, the Angels' lone playoff appearance was 2014.
Oh, I mixed up the years. Trout won MVP in 16, though.
Yeah, well, he won it a few times. Yeah, made the playoffs in 14, had a winning season in 15, haven't had one since. Seven straight losing seasons with Mike Trout. That's impressive. Well, Rick, I think there's some issues in terms of rights. Fox has them, and I think there's a certain period of time where they're not allowed to show them. Plus, all the overnight sports centers are taped. Like the first live sports center, I think, is going on right now. But I'm not sure that they're allowed to show the highlights.
They have. I don't think they are.
Like, I don't think they're allowed to show the highlights until, like, today's matches are done.
It's like the Olympics.
Which Felipe's very excited about the Olympics that are coming next summer.
I am so excited for the Olympics.
He and my wife.
Well, we knew that. Did not see Mad Dog on Libertard yesterday.
Get our guest. Turn your mic off.
It was great if you were into the New York sports scene.
Andrew's on hold. We're coming back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Networks, floridasportsnetwork.com. Greg Swaim to talk conference realignment and everything that is going to take place today. In 1 hour, Alex Golesh, the South Florida football coach, will join us at the top of the hour. Andrew Moore is kind enough to join us right now. He covers the Indianapolis Colts for Sports Illustrated. He co-hosts the Horseshoe Huddle podcast, Horseshoe Huddle. Follow Andrew on Twitter, Andrew Moore with 2 O's, Andrew Moore NFL, Andrew Moore NFL. Andrew, it's David and Mark. Good morning. How are you? Andrew, good morning. How are you?
Not too bad. How are you guys?
We are doing fine. So I know it's early, but how's Richardson look?
He looks really good. I think for us Colts beat, we wanted to see him really take charge of that huddle and see what he was mentally, because there's really no question that Anthony Richardson can do everything physically on the field. But where was his head at? Where was he as far as being able to digest the new playbook for Shane Steichen? And he hasn't looked overwhelmed. He certainly had some highlight plays already early in Colts camp. There have been some misses, and Shane Steichen has admitted that those will need to get cleaned up. But I think to start out camp, Richardson has looked really, really good, and Colts fans should be excited about what's to come.
Well, Richardson's the story that we thought was going to be in training camp. That's not the story that is training camp. Jonathan Taylor and Jim Irsay are the story. Is there any way to settle this quickly?
I don't think so. I think this is going to drag out a lot longer than any of us expected. I mean, look, during the summer, there was at least we all thought there was a very good chance that Jonathan Taylor would be signing a long-term extension with the Indianapolis Colts, and that has quickly changed over the past couple weeks. The Colts are really taking a new approach. Over the past few years, Chris Ballard has always talked about keeping and extending their own. You've seen that with Quentin Nelson, Shaq Leonard, Braden Smith. But with a new coaching staff coming into this building, the Colts are more in a wait-and-see approach. They want to see how these guys work with the new coaching staff, and if any of these guys are really going to be in their long-term plans. Not just Jonathan Taylor, but Michael Pittman Jr., Julian Blackmon, Kenny Moore II. But Jonathan Taylor has definitely been the most vocal about voicing his displeasure with this new approach. He feels like he's done enough to get that contract extension. Obviously, things have gone from behind the scenes to the public eye, and it seems like over the past week and a half, it's gotten very messy and very public very quickly.
Well, with the primary backup, Zach Moss, breaking his arm yesterday, there really is nobody, who's ever really done anything in camp outside of Taylor at that position. Do you think the Colts give Fournette a call? Do you think they out of nowhere give Dalvin Cook a call and play real hardball with Taylor? I mean, where do you think this goes from here? Steichen comes from the Eagles. The Eagles don't believe in paying running backs. And I'm curious whether or not, Steichen's letting Ballard and company know, listen, we can be just fine without a running back. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't see the Colts calling any free agent running backs at this time. Look, Evan Hall has been very, very good. The 5th-round pick out of Northwestern made quite a few plays in training camp. Deion Jackson has as well. The Zach Moss injury definitely makes things more difficult. But it seems like it's going to be about a 4 to 6 week injury. If he has to miss a game, it seems like only week 1 is in jeopardy. And Jonathan Taylor, I don't think the Colts are in any position to panic regarding that running back position because, like you said, Shane Steichen in Philadelphia had success with a running back by committee approach, and their Pro Bowl running back Miles Sanders is now in Carolina. So we keep considering all that, plus the threat of Anthony Richardson running the ball. I just don't see the Colts panicking and looking to go out and sign another running back. They still believe that when Jonathan Taylor is healthy, as Shane Steichen says, he will be playing for this team. We'll have to see if Jonathan Taylor takes an even harder stance and holds out. But I don't think the Colts are going to panic at this point.
He's Andrew Moore. He covers the Colts for Sports Illustrated. He also co-hosts The Horseshoe Huddle. It's a podcast about the Colts, The Horseshoe Huddle. Follow Andrew on Twitter, Andrew Moore NFL. Andrew Moore with 2 O's, NFL.
Richardson gets you excited about the future. What else on this roster should have a Colts fan excited, or is there not a lot to be excited about?
I think there's plenty to be excited about. I think Colts fans need to be patient because it's probably going to take a couple years before this team is ready to contend. But you have some really good young wideouts in Michael Pittman Jr. and Alec Pierce. We've already seen a connection form between Richardson and Pierce early in camp. And the Colts still have some heavy hitters on the defensive side of the ball. Forrest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Shaquille Leonard looks to be getting healthier by the day. He's been participating in 11-on-11 and 7-on-7. And it looks really good. He looks like he's got that explosiveness back. He's getting his speed back. And when Shaquille Leonard is out on the field for that defense, it's just a different feel. This defense becomes a lot more fierce. They definitely have a bigger threat of turning the ball over. And he really is the heart and soul of this defense. So getting guys back healthy, there's plenty of young guys to be excited about. Again, 2023 might not be the best season for the Indianapolis Colts, but there's pieces in place where 2 to 3 years down the line, hopefully this team can find themselves back in contention.
Andrew, my final question is, do you think Ballard and the Colts will hold on to Buckner and Leonard? They probably want Leonard to play a few games and reestablish his value. Buckner has tremendous value. Do you think they will hold on to them and have them be part of the 24-25, hey, when we're going to be contenders in the division again, Colts? Or do you think that, they may sell the way that the Bears sold last year and got real value for a couple of their guys? Do you see them as part of the long-term Colts future?
I really do. I think when talking about DeForest Buckner, his name came up in quite a few trade scenarios this offseason, but Chris Ballard has gone on the record to say, if I could have 53 DeForest Buckners, I would. DeForest Buckner holds a very, very high place with this organization. He's one of their pillars. I mean, he's on the side of Lucas Oil Stadium. I don't see him going anywhere, and he would be somebody that I would assume the Colts would sign to another extension once his contract is up. after 2024. And Shaquille Leonard is only in year 2 of that 5-year, $100 million deal. So, yes, there are still questions of can he return to old form? Oh, he looks good in training camp, but, well, of course, we're not going to really know until we see him in live game action. But if Shaq Leonard could come back and be how he was just a couple years ago, those are the two pillars for this Colts defense that they'll continue to build around and continue to stack talent around for the foreseeable future.
Andrew, thanks for making time for us. Really appreciate it. Safe travels, continued success with Sports Illustrated, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Thanks for having me on, guys. A lot of fun.
Andrew Moore covers the Colts for SI, co-hosts the Horseshoe Huddle. It's a Colts podcast, the Horseshoe Huddle. Follow him on Twitter, Andrew Moore with 2 O's, Andrew Moore NFL, Andrew Moore NFL. All right. We're the front office for that team. You know, the Jags put it together in a year. They went from first pick of the draft. They spent a bunch of money, though, heading into last year in free agency, but they put their makeshift roster, new coach, fairly new regime, so to speak, and with a young franchise quarterback in year 2, they turned it around, stole the division, just like that, a division in transition. So we're the power structure of the Colts. When are you thinking we steal this division from the Jags? Uh-huh.
Right.
Yep. Right. I mean, that's why I brought up the Leonard Buckner question. You know, because you and I still think the Jags are on the rise. The Jags didn't peak last year. We think the Jags are going to get better. They might get better for a couple of years.
They still are they're on an incline here for the next couple of years.
So when is it that you think, you know, Tennessee's got, you know, last year at Tannehill, Derrick Henry's, how many more years he got left as an elite running back? Houston, in theory, is on the rise. It can't get worse.
If they're right, Houston and Indianapolis are in the same exact spot. Are they right about their quarterback?
Right.
That's all we're trying to figure out. CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, can they play?
But even if they can play, and let's just say they're good, let's just say they become good quarterbacks fairly quickly. They going to be better than the guy in Jacksonville? They're going to be pretty damn good to be as good or better than the guy in Jacksonville, who's got a 2-year head start on both of them. I mean, that's why I wonder if you're a Buckner, if you're a Shaq Leonard. I mean,
that's why I wonder if you're the Colts.
Right. I mean, to be honest with you, listen, we obviously think that the running back should be making more that they're making, and we all see what's going on, blah, blah, blah. But if you're the Colts, are you going to Taylor's entering year 4? Let's just say you think by 2025 you'll be on even footing with the Jags. Let's just say you think you're going to have to redo that roster, and in 2025 you're ready to go toe-to-toe with them. Well, now that your running back's entering year 6 and a second contract, or you've tagged them.
Or right. But more than likely you've tagged him. That's the way that we do this.
Right. It's also year 3, by the way, of your quarterback, so you got to pick up his 5th-year option after 2025, et cetera. You know, some of these contracts
down the road money.
Okay, that's true. But, you know, I'm wondering, like the Bears, I thought it was a smart deal with where they were when they said, we're not paying Roquan Smith. Okay, not saying he's not a good player. He's a good player, but we're not going to spend $20 million on him. Okay, we're not going to be good before 2024 at the earliest. At the earliest, 2024. So why are we going to pay him now and get another year and a half out of him at elite money? No, we'll let him go. We'll get the picks. We'll save the money. And that's kind of where I see the Colts. Like, I would not be thinking the way Andrew Moore said the Colts are thinking. I would be looking to deal these guys. We're going to have injuries here pretty quickly. Got an inside linebacker who's a tackling machine when he's healthy, and you got a stud defensive tackle who's great
now is moving up the charts as one of the most important positions, at least financially, in the National Football League.
Well, yeah, and you're having to pay $24 to $28 million for a stud defensive tackle. He's a quote-unquote bargain at around 20, and he's under contract for a couple more years. Just saying. Just throwing that out there.
Not to mention you're in the AFC. We're talking about just climbing the worst division in the conference. That doesn't even talk about contending for an AFC championship.
Right. I mean, all of a sudden the Chiefs get one key injury on defense. You're not going to call the Colts about Buckner? Move some money around again to be able to afford. Did you see what Aaron Rodgers said yesterday? Why'd you give $35 million back? He said, really good players are starting to become available at the trade deadline. And I wanted us to have the money to be able to take on a bigger salaried guy at the deadline. You don't think maybe he's thinking about Devontae Adams with the Raiders, do you? But I thought that was interesting. He didn't say anything like that when he was in Green Bay.
The league didn't say anything like that for the most. I mean, realistically, we didn't talk that way. Right. You and I did on this show.
Right. We wondered why the NFL wasn't like the other leagues. Trade deadline should be a valuable resource. Use it. Yep. So, throwing that out there. Adam, our Jags fan in the Twitch chat room, all bent out of shape. They're going to be looking at our backside for the next 3 to 5 years.
They
Hope
should
so.
be.
Yeah.
They should be, or you've done something wrong.
Right. That defense needs to improve, though, in Jacksonville. I'm just saying. It's bottom third of the league. Needs to get better. Needs to get better.
And not a lot better. We know it's a scoring league.
Right.
But you got to be middle of the pack defensively.
Exactly. Not 21st through 23rd. You need to be about 14th. You can get it done at 14. I mean, your quarterback's got to be top 5, but you can get it done.
But you're on the verge of that with the quarterback.
Right. I mean, who knows? Maybe in a year or two, you know what we're saying? It's nice to have a Trevor Lawrence. Everybody needs to have a Trevor Lawrence.
Not just Gatorade.
And ice cream. Man, is that story getting a lot of attention in Jacksonville. My goodness.
Who doesn't like an ice cream truck? I love an ice cream truck. I already picked Cincinnati. The ice cream truck had me leaning a little bit, though, David. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
20 years ago, Jason and I had the idea for a jewelry store like no other, with a vast selection of certified diamonds priced 8 to 12% over cost. A team of individuals who are educated, driven, and believe in cultivating relationships.
Today, we have become one of the largest independent jewelry stores in the country. Todd and I love what we do and are in the store nearly every day, along with our GIA gemologists, master jewelers, custom designers, and non-commissioned diamond consultants, all of which we consider family.
As direct diamond importers, we travel the world, forging relationships and sourcing diamonds. What we love most about our business is that we can call Southwest Florida our home.
If selection, value, and comfort are important to you, give the Diamond District an opportunity. You won't find a better diamond buying experience. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
It's time for Dr. Roto's yearly house call. Tuesday, August 15th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe in Fort Myers. The second annual Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, courtesy of the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. Dr. Roto will give you all the tips, secrets, while answering your questions so you can win in fantasy football. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com. $50 gets you dinner, non-alcoholic drinks, and Dr. Roto. Seating is limited. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com today.
The law firm of Michael F. Hornung has successfully represented the citizens of Southwest Florida for over 30 years. As a former prosecutor, the information I know is information you need to know. If you've been arrested for a DUI, a criminal matter, or involved in an auto accident, call the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. I'm a local attorney with local knowledge to assist you through the process. For a free consultation, call 239-437-0095. That's 239-437-0095. Offices in Fort Worth.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
It's a tweet from yesterday, but it's my tweet of the day. I don't even know who this guy is. Guy by the name of Fred Jacobs. Why does X feel like a radio station that rebrands itself, but somehow is still running the old production and the station van has yet to be rewrapped? That seems about right.
I have not tried Threads, Feeney. Hey, don't laugh. I think Aaron Donald's going to be available this year, too.
When do they start practicing at USF? This week?
I think they started.
They've started?
I thought they have. Actually, I can't find it. They may not have practiced. I have no on their Twitter handle.
We're ready. He's good.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It's our third and final hour of Miller and Moulton along the network in Lake City and surrounding areas, Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte, and Venice. It's halfway home for those in the 239. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Greg Swaim to talk conference realignment in a little more than 30 minutes' time. He's Alex Golesh. He's the head football coach at South Florida. He's kind enough to join us once again. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach Golesh, Golesh. Alex, Coach, it's David and Mark. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it is our pleasure. So, by the way, I've been looking. Have you guys started hitting each other yet officially?
No, so we report officially today. We'll be on the field tomorrow, and literally, I walked in this morning, walked around the building, and trying to gauge everybody's juice level, and everybody's about as excited as you can imagine.
What's your favorite thing about this time of year, Coach? What gets you excited every year when camp gets open?
You know what? As I walked around this morning, I was more excited than anything just to actually do football. I think there's just so much that goes on, and in this role where you're kind of dealing with a lot of things that have to do with your guys, a lot of things that have to do outside of the program, getting on a football field and actually coaching football is really, it's what we get into this for. It's the funnest part of the job. But actually being out there and being with the guys and communicating with the guys and encouraging, pushing, whatever the moment entails, but actually being able to be with the players and helping grow, and that's the best part of the job. And it seems like any more you do it, less and less.
You've been nice enough. You joined us shortly after you got the job, and then you joined us during spring ball. And I'm just curious, because obviously there's an awful lot when you take on any new job, but you had to put a staff together. You had last year's recruiting. Now you're looking ahead to the classes of 24 and 25. All right. But also you got a chance in spring ball to take a look at your guys as opposed to just looking at them on film. What about your team when spring ball was done did you turn to your staff and go, we're a lot better here and here than I thought we were?
Yeah, I think in so many ways you have no idea when you walk in. You evaluate the roster, you evaluate where you are culturally, you evaluate really every single part of the program, and you go to work on obviously trying to make it the very best it possibly can be. I went into spring with really not a whole, tried to have a really open mind and a really clean slate. I left spring probably more so than anything else from a personnel standpoint with a really positive outlook on the fact that the kids within our program like to work. They like to practice. They enjoy the being out there and actually playing football together. It's a really competitive group. Now, I also left saying, man, we got a lot of holes we've got to fill, and we've got to go to work on the recruiting side, in the portal at that point where we've got to fill some holes to be really, really competitive. But I was thoroughly encouraged by the guys want to and drive to work. I think part of that is the mental side of turning a page and saying, man, everything is new. It's a new era. What happened in the past doesn't matter. We got to move forward. But their willingness to work and their ability to adapt to the new was what was really encouraging.
How much do you talk about the first game when you start practice? What is the level of how camp goes when you're just trying to get football started to focus then on a specific game? How long will this just be training camp before the focus switches to Western Kentucky?
Yeah, well, I think the fact that there's a game in a month is kind of that light at the end of the tunnel. You know, we've talked about the last 8 months have really been the dark days of college football. You know, football's such a unique sport. There's 12 guaranteed opportunities to play. There's 353 other days where there's a lot of work that goes into it. You know, it's different than basketball or baseball in that sense, where each one truly matters. Where, you know, we've talked zero about a game yet, and this will be the first time really tonight as we get together as a team where you even talk about this is the plan to truly win. Everything up until this point has been teaching process in everything. You know, in how you sleep, how you eat, how you hydrate, how you treat your teammates, how you keep your locker looking, you know, how you study, how you watch film, the importance of being a good teammate. Like, nothing so far up until this point has gone into what it looks like to play a game. And it still won't until 2 weeks out from that game where we actually get into what we call a mock game week. Up until that point, it's still about us. And these first 15 days are truly us becoming the best version of us. And that's technically from a blocking, tackling, catching, throwing standpoint, and then tactically for these guys to understand schematically how we actually grow and how each day builds on itself. And for us, it's about finding positive momentum for these first two and a half weeks going into that mock game week. And then its focus does turn to somebody else with finally, you know.
He's Alex Golesh. He's the head football coach at South Florida. They open their season the first Saturday of September. They're at Western Kentucky. The home opener is the following Saturday night. That's against FAMU. By the way, the third Saturday, playing somebody you may have heard of. They're hosting Alabama at 3:30 in the afternoon, if you're interested. Did you hear an interview that Eric Spoelstra did a few weeks ago about LeBron James?
I didn't.
Okay.
I did not hear him.
Okay. When you first came on our show, you talked about how important being excellent at everything was. And there was a part of you talking about it may seem silly. You may think I'm giving you coach speak. Spoelstra talked about the 4 years LeBron was in Miami. He was never late once, ever, for anything. And his locker was the neatest in the room. And Spoelstra goes, you may think I'm a geek and you may not think that's important. To us, it is. That told us everything we need to know about him. His locker was clean. He folded everything. He didn't throw his clothes on the floor. And when we were listening to you just now talk about, doing everything in an excellent way, okay? I mean, it's easy for Spoelstra to say that now, 9 years in, the rearview mirror, so to speak. But do you think that kids, the generation that you're reaching, do they respond to that?
Yeah, I think it's such a fascinating time in I don't know, society, you could probably say, where like it's almost like everything matters even more because everything is so public now. There's a reason why LeBron is who LeBron is, and we talk a lot about the elite guys in our sport, but really just in sport in general. Something makes those guys different, right? Like they got to have an elite trait. Like a guy like LeBron has a lot of elite traits, and when you throw in work ethic and you throw in the importance of making little things count, that's why he's been playing for as long as he has, and been elite at his craft for as long as he has. But that's when I was talking about process. That's what I referred to, where every single thing matters. And young guys at times are resistant to that because young guys want to be treated like old guys. And I think the humility of which you approach it, the giving of the why, I think more important than anything, is is also critically important, because to say, man, this is what we're going to do and not give them a why is goes in one ear and out the other. But it certainly is. It's a different generation right now than one that certainly I grew up in. But it's a fun generation because these guys are on a very, very public stage, and they know that everything that happens is out there and is seen. So it's super different, but it's exciting different. And I think that's a great example. Now that you talk about it, I do remember watching Eric talk about that, but it's not a surprise. You know, there's a reason why LeBron is who LeBron is, and certainly something that's been hammered home beyond anything you would ever know.
Coach, as always, we're appreciative of your time. Good luck with practicing, get underway, and we want everybody to stay healthy. Hopefully you can join us on a regular basis and we can do this again before your opener.
I appreciate it. Can't wait to see Ray J packed out. It'll certainly be really, really cool as we get to it. But we got a month, like you said, we got to stay healthy. We got to continue to grow as a team and take a step here forward as we get ready.
Coach, thanks for your time. Good luck.
Thank you, guys. Go Bulls. Appreciate y'all.
Alex Golesh, the head coach of South Florida. Follow him on Twitter at Coach Golesh, Golesh. He can't talk about his 2024 recruiting class,
but we can,
because they can only verbal right now. None of the coaches can talk about any of their verbal commits until they sign the piece of paper. But he got a 4-star out of Ocala who said yes to South Florida over Alabama, Auburn, Miami, Florida State.
Fred Gaskin's the kid's name.
Yep. They didn't have a 4-star commit to South Florida in a while. Never mind who he beat for the kid. All right. He's already got 14 guys signed in the class of 2024. And they're going to be active yet again in the portal.
Now it's just keeping all these players, because the schools who lost out aren't going to quit.
Right. No doubt. Right. Until you sign, they're still recruiting you.
But that is a really solid get for Alex Golesh and staff at South Florida to pick up a 4-star D-back, a safety out of Ocala. That's the type of thing that turns heads and makes you get noticed. Hopefully Alex Golesh will continue to get noticed at South Florida. Miller and Moulton, just churning along here on a Tuesday right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Hello, friends and family of Southwest Florida. Are you looking to tap into the electric vehicle market? Well, look no further, because we here at Southwest Florida Golf Carts have just what you need. E-bikes, golf carts, LSVs, scooters, and more. Come down and talk with one of our experienced sales reps, have a soda and a smile, and you could be cruising the streets in your new EV today. Stop by the store or visit our website at flgolfcarts.com and enter for a chance to win $100 off your next purchase by answering John's monthly sports question.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
20 years ago, Jason and I had the idea for a jewelry store like no other, with a vast selection of certified diamonds priced 8 to 12% over cost. A team of individuals who are educated, driven, and believe in cultivating relationships.
Today, we have become one of the largest independent jewelry stores in the country. Todd and I love what we do and are in the store nearly every day, along with our GIA gemologists, master jewelers, custom designers, and non-commissioned diamond consultants, all of which we consider family.
As direct diamond importers, we travel the world, forging relationships and sourcing diamonds. What we love most about our business is that we can call Southwest Florida our home.
If selection, value, and comfort are important to you, give the Diamond District an opportunity. You won't find a better diamond buying experience. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
It's time for Dr. Roto's yearly house call, Tuesday, August 15th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe in Fort Myers. The second annual Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, courtesy of the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. Dr. Roto will give you all the tips, secrets, while answering your questions so you can win in fantasy football. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com. $50 gets you dinner, non-alcoholic drinks, and Dr. Roto. Seating is limited. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com today.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Thank you, Mongo. Good luck to your dog, Sled Puppy.
Hopefully it'll be cheaper than my dog was.
I think euthanizing your dog would have been cheaper.
Damn right it would have.
Jeez.
I wasn't advocating euthanizing, Frank. I was just making a comment that, you know, the end game can be cheaper.
Hell of a lot cheaper.
Does Maddie like the cats more or the dogs more?
She likes the cats more, but the dog's important. I mean, because the dog's been there for her the whole time.
Right. It's a dog.
Yeah, Scott, unfortunately, here's the problem. The signals in Southwest Florida suck. They just do. Okay. I wish, but they have an app, which doesn't suck. So I would advocate everybody. But yeah, 770 can suck. And the 2 FM translators have, over the last 3 weeks, apparently have both sucked at various points in times. Don't know what to tell you. We don't work for the company. Company puts the format on what they put the format on. And
speaking of which, did you talk to him about the promos yesterday?
I did.
And
he said that he was going to fix it. He said he was sorry.
Scott, I'm amazed our ratings are as good as they are, considering how much the signals in Southwest Florida suck.
But 99.3 kills it in the ratings.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, they made the right move, financially. But we're on 2 or 3 different apps because of the stations that we're on. Like Beasley has a ESPN Southwest Florida app. We're on an iHeart station, aren't we?
Yes.
That has us on a...
Yes. Yeah, the apps on the phone are all great. I mean, every app is spectacular.
Crushes it. Oh. Even our second act had an app that was tremendous. We do appreciate you listening, though. I hope you know that. Without you, we don't have a show.
Especially me. David sometimes gets angry with you. I'm joking, David. I'm just...
No, actually, no. Some of the comments, it's kind of like, were you listening? I feel like I'm pulling a McEnroe to the umpire. It's a question. Nat shows are free. Our show is free. Our boss pays the cost to syndicate it. So, in theory, a station could carry us for the same thing as carrying ESPN or Fox. That's why we're trying to get on more stations.
Here we go.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Greg Swaim, who's all over the conference realignment stories, breaking some of the news in the last week or so. He will join us coming up in a little more than 15 minutes time. 9 hours, 38 minutes left. The baseball trade deadline, 6 p.m. tonight. 2 weeks tonight is the Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit with Dr. Roto. Thanks to the law firm of Michael F. Hornung for sponsoring the event. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com and sign up for said event.
In fact, do it right now, this very minute.
Yeah. So there. Rays made a deal yesterday. Marlins did not. Marlins lost out on the third baseman from the Nats that they really wanted and that they need. Of course, we're done talking about the Marlins because only 9,808 people went to their game last night.
Most of which were with Philly fans.
Right. So, don't know how much we're going to be talking about them, not just for the rest of the year, but for the rest of our time on the air, which we're hoping is, let's see, what grade's your daughter entering?
She'll be in the 4th grade this year.
Right. So 9 more years. We need 9 more years.
2 weeks Thursday it starts, David, or a week Thursday, in case you were wondering.
Oh. So let's see if we're going by numbers. 2 days to the Hall of Fame game, 9 until kids are back to school, which I'm guessing resonates.
Please.
Resonates with more than just you. 14 days to the Fantasy Football Summit, and then, football season begins 25, 30, or 37 days away. Nice. Nice. So we were playing kind of the conference realignment game earlier in the show. What do you do if you're, by the way, we can't ask this of, head coach Alex Golesh because it's above his pay grade and you can't say anything about it, but South Florida applied for membership with the Pac-12. All right, let me ask you, if all you-know-what goes down today, and let's just stop all you-know-what at Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah leaving. So the Pac-12 in 2024 will be the Pac-6. And obviously, they're going to want to add at least 4 schools right away.
It's not that they're going to want to, it's that they're going to have to. 6 is not enough to even get you an automatic bid into the NCAA basketball tournament. They cease to exist as a conference with 6 members.
And if you have 10 members, in a lot of sports, it works really well. You can do home and homes. You play 18 conference games. And that's actually, a lot of people think that's the perfect basketball conference. 10 schools, everybody plays home and home. Thank you very much. I mean, it's how it used to be, in conferences called the, wait for it, Big Ten, Pac-10. I digress. But in all seriousness, so it's a makeshift Pac-12. By the way, SMU apparently really wants in. SMU wants in. San Diego State still wants in. They just covered their butt going back to the Mountain West. The thought is now, if the Pac-12 is scrambling, they may have to come up with the money because San Diego State cost themselves an extra, I think it's $17 million by going back to the Mountain West. If they want out, they got to pay $34 million now instead of 17. Well, they may look at the Pac-12 and said, listen, you guys screwed this up. Okay, we're ready to leave 4 weeks ago. So this 17 million's on you. You want us? You got to pay this half of it. We'll pay the other half. So let's just say San Diego State joins, SMU joins, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, Washington State. If you're South Florida, stay in the American or join the Pac-12?
Man, I would say join the Pac-12 because money-wise, it would just be greater. It would be significantly greater.
It would, but let's rattle off those schools again. SMU, San Diego State, Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, Washington State, and for now, and we all know they're leaving at some point, Oregon and Washington.
I think you have to. I really do, David. I don't think this opportunity may ever present itself again for South Florida. Yes, you're going to have to pay astronomical travel costs and all your other sports. I don't know what to tell you.
So for about 11 to 13 million more per year, 20 million versus I think they're getting 9 beginning this year. So for more than doubling the revenue you're bringing in. Now, how much of that 11 million would be eaten up by travel costs? You'd have to say a few million. I mean, 3 million extra in travel costs,
but that's all right.
So then you would double your revenue,
right?
But the closest you're playing one school not in the Pacific time zone, SMU right now.
Well, first off, I don't think they would take South Florida without someone else.
Well, okay. Tulane apparently is interested. SMU is interested. South Florida applied. San Diego State.
Did Memphis apply?
Memphis, I think, is holding out for the Big 12. I don't know that they applied. I had that tweet. I don't know if I saved it.
Yeah, I do too, and I'm just having to dig back to look for it.
Because I think I sent it to you. But
yeah, you're really looking at nothing in the Eastern time zone.
No, I think Tulane would be potentially the closest school, SMU second closest, and then everything else is out west. By the way, all your games are on streaming. You'd hardly ever be on national television again. Now,
you're not on it now.
Right. Just going to point that out. I mean, UCF was really the one game because of UCF's prowess in the last 5 years that got you a nationally televised game. You got on, I think, ESPN2 a couple times because of the Gators. You're going to be nationally televised this year to some degree when you host Alabama. So, I mean, just throwing that out there because the Pac-12, Mark, as of tonight, the Pac-12 could be fighting for survival. They may call South Florida and say, you want in, yes or no?
I don't think they would, but because of the other schools that apparently have talked about joining the Pac-12, that have filed the paperwork. Colorado State.
Right.
San Diego State that you mentioned, SMU, UNLV,
that's
Tulane.
10, 11.
Memphis.
Okay. So Memphis, yeah.
Boise, Fresno State, Tulsa, and Rice.
Okay.
I don't think South Florida ever gets that call.
I think they'd get it over Tulsa. But I don't know how many of those, they could also think a bunch of those schools out west, we don't need any more, we don't need Colorado State. I don't need Fresno. I got Stanford and Cal. What do I need Fresno for?
But I think Colorado State, Boise State, San Diego State, UNLV would all be in play.
Now, I do think UNLV would be in play. UNLV, by the way, week 2, getting some national television. They're at Michigan. They're going to be on CBS. Not that they're ready for it, mind you. It's kind of like South Florida getting some play the next week when they're playing Alabama. Good news is it's going to be nationally televised. The bad news is it's going to be nationally televised. UNLV might be playing the best Michigan football team of the last 25 years.
Their entire offensive line plus a couple backups might get drafted.
Right. Was it Feldman? Somebody wrote a story yesterday saying 20 guys might get drafted off this Michigan team. Well, then you better play for the national title if that's the case.
The bar has been set high for the Michigan Wolverines this year.
So just throwing that out there because, we're going to talk with Greg Swaim here. Chaos, madness is about to ensue outside of March. And could it even affect South Florida? Greg Swaim, conference realignment next. It's time for Dr. Roto's yearly house call. Tuesday, August 15th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe in Fort Myers. The second annual Miller & Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, courtesy of the law firm of Michael F. Hornung.
Dr. Roto will give you all the tips, secrets while answering your questions so you can win in fantasy football. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com. $50 gets you dinner, non-alcoholic drinks, and Dr. Roto. Seating is limited. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com today.
Located on the East Trail, locally owned Naples Tiki Bar and Grill is an outdoor eatery next to the Hitching Post Shopping Center. Island-inspired food with a true tiki theme. The best place in Naples to enjoy the beautiful weather in Southwest Florida. The Naples Tiki Bar and Grill offers a great menu for dine-in or takeout. Enjoy our famous pulled pork, huge burgers, and tiki bar cocktails. Don't miss happy hour every day from 3 to 6 and live music 7 days a week. See you soon at the Naples Tiki Bar and Grill, 11498 Tamiami Trail East.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. No, Johnny, everybody loves the idea. It's just not going to happen. It's just not a realistic idea. We've talked about relegation on this show for a decade as fun. It's just not anything that will ever happen. Like Moulton going to a salon for a haircut. That's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
Although I'd like to send him to a salon one time, get a full color job, and have him walk back in the house just to see what his wife said.
Be amazing.
Would he get the elder discount?
Not at a salon.
No, I don't know if there is one.
There isn't. In fact, that's their demo. They don't give discounts to who their core audience is. Trust me, when I get my haircut, I'm young in the place. I'm the only male, and I'm young.
I refuse to get my haircut around anywhere here because there's one barber in Miami that I trust. I don't trust any barbers here.
You need to go to a salon with that mop. A barber. Wouldn't trust a barber to that. That's a lot of hair. It's your livelihood.
I've been to a salon as well, and it wasn't that great. But it was just one salon. There's a barber by my house in Miami, though, that is my guy.
Yeah, Harbaugh was the one that said 20 guys are going to get drafted.
Yeah, I thought it was Feldman who wrote the story. Johnny, it's not here. I don't spend money on me. At least not on my physical appearance. I'll buy massages.
Greg is on hold. We're back in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Thanks so much for being with us. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. It's our last segment along the network in Lake City and surrounding areas, Tampa, St. Pete, Port Charlotte, and Venice. The bonus hour for the 239 begins at the top of the hour. A reminder, go to floridasportsnetwork.com. Sign up 2 weeks from tonight. Dr. Roto and our Fantasy Football Summit presented by the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. He's been doing this for 35 years. He's one of the best sources when it comes to college sports and conferences and realignment. He's Greg Swaim. You can follow him on Twitter at gswaim, SWAIM. Listen to his show, gregswaim.com. Also, you could see it, social media and the like. Greg, it's David and Mark. Thanks for your time. We know how busy you are by following you on Twitter. How are you?
Hey, doing great, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
So, you said in May, all you know what was going to break loose. Is today the day that it breaks loose? And how many schools are we talking?
Well, it sure feels like it. It's really weird because everything that we thought would happen is starting to happen a lot later. You know what I mean? And the reason is, Klakov just kept kicking the can down the road. Sorry, I have some allergies, guys, but so it don't sound that great. But yeah, Klakov just kept kicking the can down the road, and so this thing is taking forever. And if it's frustrating for fans, it's really frustrating for people who follow this because this should have probably not taken this long. But 2 weeks now we'll have it. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks later, and we kept hearing that. And I think finally, Brett Yormark had enough. He said, "Hey, August 1st," and here we are. And I think Arizona for sure, could be Utah, could be Arizona State, several people, and it's all going to come down to this meeting that they're having today, the Pac-12, and deciding if finally we're waiting on the Holy Grail, the Pac-12 deal. Well, I don't think it's going to be the deal they want.
All right. How close are Arizona and Arizona State joined at the hip to leave? We've heard Arizona. Arizona State seems much more tied to the Pac-12 and to the Southern California market. Are those two schools tied at the hip?
No, nobody's tied at the hip. I mean, we saw that with Texas and Texas A&M a dozen years ago. Oh no, A&M can't leave. A&M can't leave. They're tied at the hip legislatively. Well, they weren't. Oklahoma State, we heard the same thing. So nobody's tied at the hip.
All right. There have been two different reports. One was that the Big 12, when they negotiated their TV extension with Fox and ESPN, could bring on 4 new Power 5 schools, and Fox and ESPN would pay the full share. You talked about over the weekend how things have changed and maybe the networks are only willing to pay for 2. What's your understanding today? All right. Do they only have room for, say, Arizona? Or if Arizona State and Utah call and say, we want in, are they going to get a full share?
Yeah, any of the Four Corner schools, Oregon, Washington, that was the holdup was Fox. It wasn't ESPN. ESPN was going to pay their part. I think some people called it the hunting license, which is basically telling, the Pac-12 teams, hey, if you join the Big 12, you're going to get the 31.7. And they had to get Fox to go ahead and do more than 2. So it's up to 6 is what I actually heard, if it's the Four Corners and or Oregon and Washington would get the full 31.7. I think Oregon and Washington would jump over, but we all know that, they have their sights set on the Big Ten. And I don't think the Big Ten is going to act anytime soon. They're waiting on Notre Dame, obviously. And when Notre Dame makes a decision of some sort, then the Pac or the Big Ten will move on. But, the ACC is going to break up. We hear about that tomorrow with Florida State. Some sort of legality, which is way over my pay grade. So I didn't go to law school. So, it's going to be a big day today with the Pac-12 and the Big 12. It's going to be a bigger day, possibly even tomorrow, because if Florida State can wrangle out of their deal, then there's 7 or 6 other schools, total of 7, in the ACC that would probably jump out as well, assuming they have homes to go to, and those 7 certainly would. So, I would say the next, let's say, 36 hours, probably among the biggest hours in college football that's off the field.
Now, Florida State obviously is incredibly attractive, and you had pointed out with a tweet that they're hearing the negotiated buyout of around $300 million paid in installments of $30 million over 10 years. If the Big Ten, if the Big Ten's going to expand, I had always thought Florida State and Clemson weren't the right academic fits. Does that mean that Fox is running the Big Ten right now and not the Big Ten presidents?
No, and here's the deal on that is you think what you said certainly accurate, but for their commissioner to come out and say that AAU accreditation is important, but it's not a requirement right after Notre Dame and Miami got their accreditation, I thought was significant because and there's some precedent for this. I mean, Nebraska's not AAU, although they were when they were first admitted. Michigan State was admitted back, I guess the 40s, and they didn't have their accreditation until much later. So there's a precedent, and if they're going to take somebody that's not AAU accredited, those schools would be two they'd take. And that's a lot more money, but really, Clemson and Florida State would rather go to the SEC and take less money. I just don't know if that's going to happen.
He's Greg Swaim. You can listen to his show, Greg Swaim, SWAIM.com. You can also get it on some other social media places. Follow him on Twitter, the letter G, Swaim, SWAIM. He's Greg Swaim joining us here on Miller and Moulton. So how sure are you of Florida State going public tomorrow, not with just we want to leave, which is what they said back in May, but with them going public saying, I'm not sure how, when, and how much it's going to cost, but we're leaving. How sure are you of this?
100%, as close as I could be. And the reason is they don't have a choice. And I know you read our Twitter stuff, so you know this. We've hit people over the head with it, but they have no choice because over a period of, 10 years, roughly they're going to lose $500 million with a B dollars over what they would get in the Big Ten. In the SEC, a little bit less. But you just can't afford in this day and age to make a lot less money than your neighbors. And, Florida State, Clemson, obviously big brands. They've all won national championships in this century, short century, but they have. And they're certainly very good, but they're not going to be very good very long if they're just, on pennies compared to their neighbors.
In your estimation, then, what does this mean for the rest of the ACC then?
It blows up like the Pac-12 is going to do eventually, if not today. And I think it'll partially blow up today. It's just like, I used an analogy probably I shouldn't have used, like blowing up a building and you blow up half of it, but the other half will figure out how to function. I don't think there's going to be much of the Pac-12 left soon. And here's the reason. If they just get Arizona today, and that's a possibility, that they have this meeting here in a little bit, we're even wondering if the Arizona president will log on for the virtual meeting this morning, because the presidents already know what they're getting if they stay in the Pac-12. And actually, it's the money, but it's not the money as much as it's going to be the lack of exposure. And that would be killer. You just can't live with that, especially if you're a program that cares about football. I don't think the Pac-12 all cares about football, but I think several of them do. And the ones that do are going to get out.
Well, it's obvious, because if they cared about football, they would have made sure 12 years ago that Texas and Oklahoma were part of the conference. And so that's why they're in the situation that they are.
I'm an Oklahoma State grad, so, I have no love lost for Oklahoma. But the thing is, they had to get out too.
Right.
And they could. If Oklahoma State could, they would have.
Listen, we're talking a lot about Florida State. What's the deal with Miami? We know where they would prefer to be. We think academic profile, where a lot of their alumni, if they leave the 3-county region where they go, we think Miami would prefer the Big Ten to the SEC. What is it that you hear? Like, are we going to end up with 2 or 3 24-team leagues here? Because we got 2 of the 3, Greg, that are saying, we don't want to expand. And you got ESPN who's crying poverty.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head earlier and just now. The TV people run the show. I mean, the presidents can think all they want, and to an extent the presidents do when they make their decisions in a conference. But in reality, like the Big 12's not going to expand if they don't have the money to do it. Well, Fox and ESPN are giving them that money. What does it say about the Pac-12 when those 2 TV entities go, hey, we'll pay the so-called hunting license, happy hunting. You know what I mean? If you're a Pac-12, what do you think about that? So, but then again, they brought this on themselves, because a year ago when USC and UCLA left, said, hey, the TV people came to the Pac and said, what about some kind of merger? You can keep your autonomy. Basically, you'll have your 12 teams. They'll just play their own schedule, and then the winners will hook up at the end. They were offered that, and it was flat turned down. So they brought this upon themselves.
Greg Swaim, listen to his show, middays, gregswaim.com, Greg Swaim, SWAIM.com. So to review, you're positive about Arizona today. You're pretty sure Arizona State and Utah will jump with them. And then Florida State tomorrow goes public saying, this may take a while, but we're out of here.
Yeah, Florida State and Clemson and the other 5 have no options. They care enough about football that they know they're going to get left behind. I mean, we've said it before. You know this. I don't know about your listeners, but Florida State, if you want to be competitive, you got to have at least the same money Rutgers is getting. Right now, you don't.
Very quickly, the other 5. Are we talking NC State, Georgia Tech, Va Tech, Louisville, Miami?
Yeah, the original 7. I think Louisville's going to jump in there to be 8. 8's a huge number. because that's half the conference, over half the conference.
Right.
And when that happens, it's over.
Greg, appreciate your time. Have another great show today, and we may have to catch up soon if all hell really does break loose.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be totally different by tomorrow. So, it'll be, well, I mean, there's so many variables. One little variable can make you go left instead of right, then the whole thing changes. So it's going to be a bumpy 36 hours.
Thanks, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Greg Swaim joining us, predicting all hell to break loose. I mean, make no mistake, Armageddon is coming, according to Greg. And it's coming fast. Some's coming today, some's coming tomorrow. Florida State fan, what do you think about that news? 21,000 is the text line. 21000 as we end our syndicated portion of our program today. And where do they go?
By the way, it was 2 weeks ago today that Greg Sankey said, yeah, we're not interested in anybody besides Texas and Oklahoma. We're good at 16. It was a week ago today, Tony Petitti at Big Ten Media Day said, can we just get USC and UCLA acclimated, please? Okay? And we've got a schedule set through 2025. We're good.
Schedule maker, do I need to rip this up? Yes, you do. Rip that sucker up and start over.
Looks like you're pulling an all-nighter, boys.
Tampa, St. Pete, Lake City, Port Charlotte, and Venice. We'll do this all over again tomorrow morning. It's August, which means it's the Diamond District bonus hour next.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again. Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Live is the official transportation provider of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Live is supported with the help of local partners like the Bayfront Inn. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn, something for everyone on 5th Avenue in downtown Naples. BayfrontInNaples.com. When you need a ride, book with Salt Live Transportation, 308-8686, or book on saltlivetransportation.com.
The law firm of Michael F. Hornung specializes in criminal defense, DUI, personal injury, nursing home claims, and auto accidents. I'm a former prosecutor with over 34 years of experience. The information I know is information you need to know. If you've been arrested for a DUI, time is of the essence to maintain your driving privileges. Call the law firm of Michael F. Hornung for a free consultation. At the law firm of Michael F. Hornung, we are committed to excellence in your representation. Being a local attorney with local knowledge is clutch to the success of your case. For over 30 years, we have successfully represented the citizens of Southwest Florida. For a free consultation, call 239-437-0095. That's 239-437-0095. Our offices are conveniently located in Fort Myers. Visit online at mfh-law.com.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
20 years ago, Jason and I had the idea for a jewelry store like no other. With a vast selection of certified diamonds priced 8 to 12% over cost. A team of individuals who are educated, driven, and believe in cultivating relationships.
Today, we have become one of the largest independent jewelry stores in the country. Todd and I love what we do and are in the store nearly every day, along with our GIA gemologists, master jewelers, custom designers, and non-commissioned diamond consultants, all of which we consider family.
As direct diamond importers, we travel the world, forging relationships and sourcing diamonds. What we love most about our business is that we can call Southwest Florida our home.
If selection, value, and comfort are important to you, give the Diamond District an opportunity. You won't find a better diamond buying experience. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
So if you were a friend of Pee Wee Herman's, he was a pretty good friend based on everything that came out yesterday.
Man, apparently it was amazing. Some of the stories that strangers basically took to on Twitter. Production assistant who worked on the Jimmy Kimmel show. It was just being nice to Pee Wee. Can I get you anything and what have you? After the show, Pee Wee was like, listen, thanks for being so nice to me. Gave him his number. Called the guy. Invited him over the house for lunch. Okay. Apparently somebody took to Facebook to thank him for, his show and what have you, getting him through a rough time with him and his young daughter.
He issued an apology letter for not telling people he had cancer. I mean, basically, I'm sorry I didn't, that I kept this private. Unbelievable. And the fact that he was 70 is just a little, Pee Wee Herman being 70 is a little.
Right. Son of a.
Uh-oh. You all right over there?
No. God.
Ten seconds.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour on this first day of August. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. The bonus hour brought to you by Todd and Jason and the good folks at Southwest Florida's Diamond District. A reminder, 2 weeks tonight, it's our Fantasy Football Summit presented by the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com and sign up. You get Dr. Roto's insight, all of it, for 2 hours. And you get fed. And you can buy drinks if you'd like to really make it a rockin' good time. So there. floridasportsnetwork.com. Sign up. Once 50 of you do, the event's likely closed.
I'll probably even wear my Florida Sports Network shirt to this event.
Oh, Nelly. Look
Get
at
all
that.
dressed up. Most important summit of 2023. The Dr. Roto Fantasy Football Summit. There will be no summit bigger.
Although, let me tell you something. Don't know how many of us still watch network programming, but, if this actors strike continues well into the fall and what have you, who knows? Maybe that'd be the second most important summit. Get back to work. We need some programming here.
Who needs programming when you've got sports, David?
I know. And believe me, we're putting football on as many nights a week as we can. Listen, we may have MACtion in September at this rate. The networks, ABC may go to the MAC and say, listen, we got nothing. You guys, Ohio and Kent State here. You want to play on a Tuesday? 8 o'clock, ABC. Honestly, we got nothing. Don't care. We'll take all the fans. We'll sit them right behind one of the benches. Whatever we got to do. So do you believe Greg Swaim, who we had on last hour, if you're just joining us, and he said Arizona and most likely Arizona State and Utah are leaving the Pac-12 by the time you wake up tomorrow, and they're going to the Big 12. And
I believe that, by the way.
Okay.
That I believe is happening. The other part of it is a little more shocking.
Because he did say, by the way, that there's financially room for Oregon and Washington. If they also want to leave, they can. Okay, he believes that Oregon and Washington are still holding out hope for the Big Ten, and they're going to just sit tight for probably a year or two, but if not longer, because he doesn't think, at least he's tweeted this out before, he doesn't think they're ever going to get in the Big Ten. But he did say that tomorrow, Florida State was publicly going to announce their intent to leave the ACC.
And made it sound as if there are 6 other schools that will be joining them with their intent to leave the ACC.
Well, if you go back 2.5 months to the spring meetings of the ACC, mid-May, there were 7 schools that were very unhappy and openly put their names to a piece of paper that Florida State and Clemson did all the talking about. They took the so-called bullets, if you will, Mark. But North Carolina and NC State signed that paper. Miami signed that paper. Virginia and Virginia Tech signed that paper. They only had 7. They need 8 to break up the conference.
Louisville is number 8.
And the thought process was shortly after the spring meetings, Louisville was leaning to leaving. So they would sign up on board. Now, once again, what does it come down to? Money. Fox and or ESPN has to be willing to subsidize these schools going into another conference. Because we're not going to divide the existing pie, which we're dividing, say, by 16, and let's just say we're going to divide it by 24. Who's going to agree to that when your slice gets smaller? No, we need a bigger pie. Well, that comes from the TV networks and the TV networks only.
David, I could be off base here, but it seems that the Big Ten would have an easier opportunity to find more money than the SEC would. The SEC's locked in with one network. If we're talking adding a couple of schools to the Big Ten, we're talking about 3 networks having to come up with the money as opposed to one network having to come up with all of it.
The only thing I will say, if we're blowing up the ACC, that's $240 million that ESPN no longer has to spend. So in theory, they could subsidize, say it's just Florida State and Clemson. They go to the SEC. Mark, I believe, I could be wrong, okay, but I believe that an SEC school is going to garner between 50 and 60 million when the new TV money kicks in. Because it's not just ESPN, it's also SEC Network. So you put it all together, and the SEC schools are going to get 50 to 60. So let's just say it's 60. So ESPN's got to find a way to come up with $120, half of the 240. So now they've got $120 to do what? Help subsidize those schools going where? To the Big 12. Because what are you doing? You're keeping them away from the Big Ten because you get no part of them in the Big Ten. You at least, what schools do they want to still have a piece of? Now, the problem is if Fox, CBS, and NBC come calling and say to the same schools that ESPN still wants to have a piece of as part of the Big 12, but then they call up North Carolina, which you and I think the Big Ten, if North Carolina is a free agent, we think the Big Ten will not only take their call, they will meet with them. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not as hung up on Virginia as others are, but I think North Carolina is of interest to the Big Ten.
I think North Carolina is going to want a school to come with them, and it's not going to be Duke, and it ain't going to be NC State.
That is 100% correct.
So it's either going to be Miami or Virginia, in my estimation. Two schools that fit the Big Ten's academic requirements. One school's got more of a football history. Okay, Virginia, obviously, geographically. Yes, Miami gets you into the state of Florida. I don't know if the Big Ten feels that's really that important. Plus, Miami is basically a 3-county school. So, Miami actually would have a bigger impact in the Northeast than Rutgers, to be brutally honest. I mean, Miami would help them in the New York metropolitan area more than Rutgers does. But the thought, Virginia, North Carolina, from a population standpoint, are two of the top 10 most populous states. They're not in either one. It kind of fits with the blueprint. You connect North Carolina, Virginia into Maryland, Pennsylvania, Jersey, and then you head west, and it just kind of sort of works. At least that's the thought process. But, the money doesn't fully add up. Just so you know, 8 schools. Okay, if you pay $120 to Florida State and Clemson, you got 6 schools left. That's $20 million a year. They go into the Big 12. Well, that's when ESPN's going to look at Fox and go, "Hey, we're paying 15 of it. You got to come up with the other 15. You got to come up with 90 more million a year for these schools."
Well, the one thing that I've thought of as we've been discussing this, and they're not important because they don't matter in football, but they mattered in basketball a great deal not too long ago. What happens to Duke? I mean, Coach K could retire. Duke could be out of a football and basketball conference in very short order because there's no guarantees at the Big 12. I think they would take them, but there are no guarantees going forward of who the Big 12 is going to want.
Well, okay. Let's just humor me. Carolina and Virginia go to the Big 10. Florida State, Clemson go to the SEC. Who do you want if you're the Big 12? Remember, and you're the Big 12. Nobody, with the ACC blowing up, nobody will care more about basketball in the Big 12. To the point where the Big 12 is talking about splitting basketball away and selling it as a separate entity. That's how big they are into their basketball and they think it's worth. And I will say, Arizona may not be a royalty program, but it's a step below. And you bring Duke into a conference with Kansas, damn.
If college basketball mattered, this would be really impressive.
Right. And the Big 12 thinks it does, and the Big 12 thinks they can get a separate TV deal out of it. We'll see. But, what do you do if you're Miami? What if they want Virginia instead of you? And Notre Dame says no. See, to me, you want to know what Duke does? I think Duke calls Notre Dame. I think Miami calls Notre Dame. Goes, we can form our own conference here. If you're in, we can form our own conference. We can call it anything we want. Hell, we can call it the Fighting Irish Conference for all we care. Now, if Notre Dame wants into the Big 10 and they've already taken Carolina and Virginia, then they probably take Miami with them. 4 more join. We get to 20. We call it a day. Either way, I think Miami ties themselves to Notre Dame. You're either going to drag us into the Big 10 or we're going to form our own conference here. Because we don't necessarily want to go to the Big 12.
And we're trying to get out ahead of the curve on this one because this is not that big of a story nationally. They react more than they look forward. And at this point, we think the dominoes are aligned for that we have to start looking forward, and it's going to happen quickly.
Nick brings up an interesting point. Would this be the return of Big East football? Is this where the Big East steps up and say, well, listen, Notre Dame, Miami, Duke, Pitt, Syracuse, BC. Oh, by the way, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech. Want to play football in a conference? Hell, I'm going to throw a name out there. How about the Big East Conference? What do you say? We already have network TV partners. We'll give them right of first refusal.
This all could be coming down the pike in the next 48 hours. Chaos in college sports. How will it all stack up? Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening. Florida Sports Network.
It's time for Dr. Roto's yearly house call. Tuesday, August 15th, 7 o'clock, Shoeless Joe's Sports Cafe in Fort Myers. The second annual Miller and Moulton Fantasy Football Summit, courtesy of the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. Dr. Roto will give you all the tips, secrets, while answering your questions so you can win in fantasy football. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com. $50 gets you dinner, non-alcoholic drinks, and Dr. Roto. Seating is limited. Sign up at floridasportsnetwork.com today.
The law firm of Michael F. Hornung has successfully represented the citizens of Southwest Florida for over 30 years. As a former prosecutor, the information I know is information you need to know. If you've been arrested for a DUI, a criminal matter, or involved in an auto accident, call the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. I'm a local attorney with local knowledge to assist you through the process. For a free consultation, call 239-437-0095. That's 239-437-0095. Offices in Florida.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
20 years ago, Jason and I had the idea for a jewelry store like no other. The vast selection of certified diamonds priced 8 to 12% over cost. A team of individuals who are educated, driven, and believe in cultivating relationships.
Today, we have become one of the largest independent jewelry stores in the country. Todd and I love what we do and are in the store nearly every day, along with our GIA gemologists, master jewelers, custom designers, and non-commissioned diamond consultants, all of which we consider family.
As direct diamond importers, we travel the world, forging relationships and sourcing diamonds. What we love most about our business is that we can call Southwest Florida our home.
If selection, value, and comfort are important to you, give the Diamond District an opportunity. You won't find a better diamond buying experience. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
If I'm reading this right, Front Office Sports is saying that Nickelodeon is going to run another Super Bowl. Like they're going to have slime. They're going to have a slime cast tailored for kids during the Super Bowl, according to Front Office Sports.
Well, they can do it this year because CBS is the game.
I know. You were right, by the way. Minnesota's a 6.5-point favorite.
Oh, are they?
I sent that to you yesterday.
I did. I saw it and I saved it, but I didn't look at it.
Kind of why I sent it to you.
Gotcha.
That way I had it in there too. Wow. Dan Patrick Show poll. Worst month of the year. August, February, other. Didn't know my birthday month was the worst month of the year. Kind of stings. I've always liked August. Did you see Kentucky got the #1 Euro prospect to sign, Felipe?
Say that again?
The #1 European prospect signed with Kentucky.
No way.
Croatian big man Xavimir Isevic. But apparently they're
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
It's 21 minutes past the hour. The bonus hour of Miller and Moulton brought to you by Todd and Jason and the good folks at Southwest Florida's Diamond District. Go to floridasportsnetwork.com. Sign up for our Fantasy Football Summit presented by the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. Miller and Moulton right here on the Florida Sports Network. You miss any part of the show, like we talked to Andrew Moore, covers the Colts for Sports Illustrated. Talked to Alex Golesh, the football coach at South Florida. And we talked to Greg Swaim, who's all over the conference realignment story. If you miss any of those interviews, well, go to floridasportsnetwork.com and download what you missed. Did you see what John Rahm said in a podcast that he did across the pond?
I did not. The golf season's, I know the Ryder Cup's coming, but David, the golf season has officially ended for me with the conclusion of the British Open.
Well, John Rahm sat down and opened up. And I don't think anyone has opened up like this who's a prominent player on the PGA Tour. There's a couple of different things that he said that I'd like to read. First, 2 minutes before the announcement came out, someone from the PGA Tour contacted me, told me everything. I thought it was a joke. And this is what they should have done from the beginning. Instead, they generated division, then decided to come together again. I hope they reach an agreement. I think LIV will continue. From what I understand when I talk to their players, none of them intend to return to the PGA Tour. They left for a reason. He then went on to say this. Phil Mickelson respects my decision, and I respect his decision. He has told me I have no reason to go to LIV, and he has told me that several times. I laugh when people rumor me with LIV. I've never liked the format, yet I always have a good time with Phil and Sergio in the practice rounds of majors. He then went on to tell they've got those that get along with the LIV guys and still play practice rounds with them at the majors, that they have some jokes. Rahm actually told some of the jokes. One of them is an Arabic expression that they use. Okay. Also, they're like, man, what are you guys going to do? You got to wear pants. You know, man, come Sunday, aren't you going to be tired? Having to play an extra 18? You know, he says, oh no, we needle the hell out of them. And we all laugh. They laugh. He goes, we get along fine. You know, they made their decision. We made ours. It's golf. But I thought two things interesting there. One, in which he referred to the PGA Tour as they. This is what they should have done from the beginning. They created division. But then also when he said, Phil didn't lobby me to join the LIV. In fact, Phil called me up and said, this is not for you. It's not. You're 20 in your mid-20s. You should stay. No. This is not for you. And he then went on to say, I've literally never spoken to Greg Norman. Okay. He sent me like a communique. I don't know if it was a text or an email. Okay. And it was just throwing some figures at me. I responded by saying, talk to my manager. He goes, I've literally have never spoken to Greg Norman.
Would be interested of why Cam Smith then. I mean, if Phil told John Rahm, this isn't for you, then why him? Or why did he decide to join?
Now, remember, Phil and Rahm were tight.
I know.
Right. Phil's brother was Rahm's coach at Arizona State and then left the job and is Rahm's caddy, right? I think he is. I think he was anyway at a time. Now I think he's caddying for Phil. But so, Phil's tight with Rahm. But that's a good point. Rahm obviously European, and the LIV is very into the world, the international. They thought that's their ticket. PGA Tour is only about the U.S. Norman has talked at length about we've invested $300 million into Asia. Okay, this is where 65% of the new golf courses are all built. They're built between here and here, not the United States, not Europe. He's even talked about, he goes, trust me, we got 25 years worth of business in Vietnam if we want it. He goes, you have no idea the money that's out there in this rim concerning golf. But here's what I'm waiting for. How come nobody's called for Monahan's job? I don't get that at all.
I think a little bit of his timing, because players had called for his job, then he got sick. And I don't think people want to have a look until they knew what was going on with Monahan, have that look of while someone's left work from a health standpoint to be calling for his job. I just don't think it was a good look. So I think it'll start happening soon here, David, now that he's back on the job.
But he came right back on the job firing off memos saying this is what we should do. And he still wants to punish the LIV golfers. He still wants to financially reward those that stayed with the PGA Tour. I mean, you heard Rahm's comments. Was it at the Scottish Open in which he was asked, do you believe that, you've earned money? The PGA Tour is talking about. He's like, no, I made a decision. I stayed. None of us deserve money for staying. It's ridiculous.
Besides, they've already got it with the elevated purses all over the place that they received because they stayed.
Right. But I do think it's very interesting. Rahm and Rory obviously going to be the two best golfers on the European Ryder Cup team.
Yeah, and one's we with the PGA Tour and the other one's they.
Exactly. Rahm's playing practice rounds with Phil. Sergio and Phil would have a duel if they allowed it. Did I say Sergio and Phil? I meant Rory and Phil. My bad. I'm telling you, Rahm's still trying to figure out a way how to get Sergio on the damn team.
Which isn't going to happen because Rory's not going to allow it to happen.
But it's just kind of like having for all those years we had the DH in the American League, not in the National League. If you're on the European Ryder Cup team, aren't you going, hold on a second. So the LIV guys can play on the U.S. team and they can't play on ours? What the heck?
It really is. We're playing with a 3-point line in one league and without it in the other.
Yeah. I don't know if there's somebody on LIV that the Euros would want on their team. Cam Smith's obviously from Australia, so he can't play. But I do think also John Rahm, and I don't know if he's intentionally doing it, but isn't he forcing the golf fan to pick a side? Aren't you picking either Rory or Rahm? Who are you supporting here in this? And Scheffler, by the way, is neutral. Scheffler's like, I don't have a problem with them. I've never said anything bad about them ever. Don't drag me
this
into
has
this.
become Rory's fight almost by himself, David. And this is where Monahan's left Rory out to dry.
Well, and the second loudest guy was probably JT, and his game's gone to hell.
He couldn't make the cut at the 3M for crying out loud.
He's not going to make the FedEx Cup playoffs. You can't put him on the Ryder Cup team.
No. That ship has sailed.
By the way, Finau did not have a good final round. He played his way into contention and shot like even par on Sunday at the 3M. Didn't make any putts. He's barely in the top 20 in the point standings. I don't know if you could put Finau on the team either. Miller and Moulton. Good, bad, and ugly. What's on tap today was the day when? As we wrap up the Diamond District bonus hour here on Miller and Moulton.
Beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn. Something for everyone. On 5th Avenue in Naples.
The law firm of Michael F. Hornung has successfully represented the citizens of Southwest Florida for over 30 years. As a former prosecutor, the information I know is information you need to know. If you've been arrested for a DUI, a criminal matter, or involved in an auto accident, call the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. I'm a local attorney with local knowledge to assist you through the process. For a free consultation, call 239-437-0095. That's 239-437-0095. Offices in Florida.
Visit Jason and Todd at the Diamond District.
20 years ago, Jason and I had the idea for a jewelry store like no other, with a vast selection of certified diamonds priced 8 to 12% over cost. A team of individuals who are educated, driven, and believe in cultivating relationships.
Today, we have become one of the largest independent jewelry stores in the country. Todd and I love what we do and are in the store nearly every day, along with our GIA gemologists, master jewelers, custom designers, and non-commissioned diamond consultants, all of which we consider family.
As direct diamond importers, we travel the world, forging relationships and sourcing diamonds. What we love most about our business is that we can call Southwest Florida our home.
If selection, value, and comfort are important to you, give the Diamond District an opportunity. You won't find a better diamond buying experience. Todd and I look forward to shaking your hand and welcoming you to our Diamond District family.
At the Diamond District.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Holy cow. I'm going to get you to not cringe with the good.
Well, that's good.
Well, I had a nun who quit, or a lady who was aspiring to be a nun who's now in search of giving people their best orgasms. That was going to be my good.
Wow.
Right.
Probably glad you found an alternative. I will say, did you see what Dan Lanning of Oregon said about Colorado?
Yes.
That's pretty good. What's your reaction to Colorado leaving the conference? Not a big reaction. Trying to remember what they won to affect this conference. I don't remember it. Do you remember them winning anything? I don't remember them winning anything.
Damn.
Well, notice he said this conference, because when they did win something, they were in the Big 8.
Inside the leather Canada relief. And personally, I think you should put everything out all the time, but it doesn't happen that way.
El Clasico sold out in Jerry's World. Nice. So did Man U and Arsenal at MetLife.
They've all sold out.
It's awesome.
What was the one they played Sunday in D.C.? That one didn't sell out.
Oh, it didn't?
And again, that stadium's huge. But
I don't know.
There were a lot of empty seats. It was hot, but there were a lot of empty seats.
And it was at FedEx?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
Home stretch of Miller and Moulton in the bonus hour, brought to you by the Diamond District. A reminder, when it fills up, it fills up. That's it. It's our Fantasy Football Summit 2 weeks tonight. There's only one way to sign up, and that's by going to floridasportsnetwork.com. The Fantasy Football Summit with Dr. Roto, and you're fed, courtesy of the law firm of Michael F. Hornung. Mark, take it away.
It's time for someone to take back this segment, if for no other reason than to stop David from talking about Meghan and Harry. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
1793 we start today, David. France becomes the first country to use the metric system. Something else to blame them for.
Man, they were really there for us in 1777. I don't know if we get off the ground without them. I really don't.
We don't.
But man, oh man, this was the beginning of the relationship turning sour.
1834. The Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 comes into effect, abolishes slavery throughout the British Empire. 1867, blacks vote for the first time in a U.S. state election in the South. It was in Tennessee. 1876, Colorado becomes the 38th state of the Union and leaves the Pac-12 for the Big 12.
Ha, ha, ha! Did they leave the Pac-8 for the Big 8? What
Right.
was the number back then?
In fact, I think they left the Pac-2 for the Big 2. Today in 1914, Emperor Wilhelm of Germany declares war on his nephew, the Tsar of Russia.
Yeah, it was on like Donkey Kong, back in 1914 today. Yep. Are we doing this? Oh, we're doing this.
Today in 33, Carl Hubble sets the MLB record for consecutive scoreless innings at 45 1/3 as the Giants would lose to the Boston Braves 3-1. 1936, the Summer Games open in Berlin. Worked out really well for him, wouldn't it?
Not so much. Not so much. They were doing okay. So a little track and field.
Mel Ott hits his 500th home run today in 1945. Joining Babe Ruth and Jimmy Fox as the only players to have hit 500 at that time. Today in 57, Gil Hodges hits his 13th career Grand Slam. It was a National League record and the last record ever as a Brooklyn Dodgers player.
Interesting. They left after 57 and went west.
Right. 1964, A Hard Day's Night is number one in the land. 1971, Richard Petty wins the Dixie 500 in Atlanta, become the first NASCAR driver with over $1 million in career earnings. Today in 73, the Virginia Squires trade Julius Erving to the New York Nets for George Carter and cash. The big part of that was the cash because they were broke.
I will say, you didn't gloss over it. You just read it matter-of-factly. It kind of took a second for me to register it. Richard Petty won the Dixie 500, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. On the Winston Cup circuit. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, all correct, David.
Right. Okay.
Today in 1981, MTV debuts. The Buggles. Video killed the radio star, the first video shown.
Somebody sent out a tweet over the weekend because this anniversary was coming up, in which they said, just so you know, MTV debuting is closer to Pearl Harbor than we are now to MTV's debut. That's how long ago it really was. Think about it. It's 42 years ago. Sorry to do that to you.
I might walk out right now.
I'm sorry.
That stings.
Yep.
Because MTV was really cool.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I want my MTV.
Today in 86, Burt Blyleven. I'm so startled by this MTV thing. I don't even know if I can finish the show.
Can I do it again? I want my MTV.
Burt Blyleven becomes the 10th to reach 3,000 strikeouts. 87, Mike Tyson outpoints Tony Tucker in 12 rounds to own all three major belts, the WBA, the WBC, and the IBF simultaneously.
Tucker may have been like the first guy to go the distance with him, too.
And David, for you today in 87, Arena Bowl 1 at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena.
Nice!
The Denver Dynamite take down the Pittsburgh Gladiators in a rout, 45-16.
I have no idea how this league did not make it. It's unbelievable to me.
And today in 88, Rush Limbaugh began his national radio show.
And as he once famously said, man, in Sacramento, I was a whale in a bathtub. He goes, in New York, doing a national show, I was nothing.
Those celebrating birthdays that are no longer with us. Dom DeLuise. Jerry Garcia would have been 81 today. Cliff Branch, Trevor Burbick, and Coolio. Those that are celebrating birthdays. Kiki Vanderway. Basically because I wanted to say Kiki Vanderway. He's
Nice.
65.
Nice.
Brad Faxon, 62, and Scotty Barnes is 22.
Faxon could still make a 20-footer, and Vandaway could still hit a baseline J.
Damn right. I bet you Vanderway would be a son of a gun in a game of horse.
Oh my goodness. I'd never play him in the driveway. Are you serious?
What did I miss, David?
Nothing. You crushed it.
Huh. Look at that. 1 for 1.
Hey, I'm going to turn on MTV today and see if they play music videos.
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
We go to Long Island for the good, where 63-year-old Dan Ho was swimming at around 5 in the morning when strong currents carried him 2.5 miles off of the coast. Kept himself to float without any flotation device and found a broken fishing rod floating in the water. He tied his shirt to the rod to create a flag. By 10:30, he was spotted by 2 men on a boat. They pulled him out of the water and saved him. That's an all-time good right there.
Actually, along those lines, there was one thing I was going to mention. My bad. 80 years ago today was the whole PT 109. Kennedy credited with saving 11 soldiers' lives when the boat they were in got split in half. Helped him become president.
For the bad, we go to Oregon, where 2 teenage boys taking part in a church camp are accused of taking part of a string of thefts in Rockaway Beach, Oregon area, robbing a convenience store clerk at knife point. The 16 and 17-year-old boys were arrested for a string of thefts while, again, they were at church camp.
Right. Well, I mean, profess your sins and all.
Finally, the ugly, we come back to Florida, where the CDC has issued a travel advisory for the state of Florida due to an increase in the cases of leprosy.
What?
Central Florida accounts for 20% of the national leprosy cases, according to the CDC.
How many cases do we have?
There were 139 documented in the U.S. in 2020. 31 of those cases were in Central Florida. Yeah. Is right.
I have to admit, though, 139. I mean,
So we got the body-eating
right.
amoebas on the beach.
Right.
And we got leprosy in Central Florida.
I don't know. 139 in the nation, 31 in Central Florida. I mean, 31.
And that is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, August 1st, 2023.
I mean, when you get to like a Marlins attendance, call me, okay?
Fair enough.
9808, call me. Speaking of the Marlins, hey, they're the first game on the docket today, 40 minutes after the trade deadline passes.
Thanks, Roxy.
Hello, Fish fans. You're a half game back of the Phillies, and you're hosting them tonight, and you're favored because you've got Alcantara on the hill. Or as Felipe says, Alcantara. And yes, it is spelled that way. I don't know why it's not pronounced that way either. Remember, he had the great start his last time out. Rays and Yankees are on TBS at 7 o'clock. For what that's worth. So, Zach Eflin, Carlos Rodon in that pitching matchup. But, great matchups. Orioles, Blue Jays, Angels, Braves, Reds, Cubs, Cleveland and Houston, Red Sox, Mariners, Diamondbacks, Giants. And we got teams that are in it playing each other. Trade deadlines in 8 hours and 11 minutes. So far, no one's been traded in the last, 8 or so hours. So the GM's actually got some sleep.
They're just getting revved up now. They got their sleep from last night's games. They're ready to go. Trades will be hot and heavy today. We'll get a few more.
I think Verlander goes to the Dodgers. Apparently the Astros are throwing everything they can at the Mets. The Mets are like, yeah, your prospects aren't any good. I mean, 17 of them is nice, but if none of them are going to make the show, how does this work for us? It's kind of like how Portland feels about Miami Heat's offer for Damian Lillard. They're like, yeah, okay, got it, but we're not interested in any of it. Speaking of which, we haven't talked about that at all. Did you see what the NBA did over the weekend?
Yeah, they sent a memo to everybody saying you can't operate business this way anymore.
Yeah, that star can't determine where he goes. You all better play ball. Call Portland and make a legitimate offer for a good player. Listen, nobody's going to want to hear this. Do you know who actually has the resources? And if he joined them, they would be an outstanding team immediately.
Talking about your Knicks?
No, Oklahoma City.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. They would probably be the second best team in the West immediately. And they got 104 draft picks and a couple of young players, honestly. I mean, if this is truly open, and that's where he would end up. Nobody can out-resource the Thunder. For whatever that's worth.
It's been a month. It was July 1st that Dame announced that he intends to be traded to the Heat.
Right. Apparently, Portland's not even taking Miami's calls. They hate their offer so much. There's some thought that Portland went to the league and said, this is crap. Why do we have to settle for this? And the league said, you're right, you don't. And that's why they issued what they issued.
The Heat essentially tried to bully them to make that trade.
Well,
yeah.
Lillard bullied them.
Right. Yeah.
And the Heat just said, that's great. If this is the only team you're going to go, here's what we've got.
Yeah, they advocated for said bullying.
Remember, the problem was they went public. Remember, Durant to Phoenix, we woke up one morning, that happened. Kyrie to Dallas, we woke up one morning, that happened. If a superstar is going to try to pull this off in the future, that's what they need to do. They got to keep their mouths shut. This has got to happen behind the scenes. Mark, you brought up something during the break that's worth mentioning because it's never happened before. Going to have an alternate Super Bowl broadcast.
Yeah, it looks like there's going to be a Nickelodeon broadcast. It's a CBS Sports, so they're going to have a slime cast.
Of the Super Bowl?
Of the Super Bowl.
Oh, man.
We've never had an alternate broadcast for the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl MVP. I can't wait.
The Super Bowl 58 on February 11th on CBS and Nickelodeon.
By the way, that's an actual accolade on footballreference.com, the MVP, and it's orange. I can't believe that.
I'm stunned that they're doing this. After all, it is the Super Bowl.
It goes to show you, though, the NFL knows they have one problem. Young people are not enamored with their product. Under the age of 30, their numbers are not that great.
Nobody's are. And so they're making sure they're trying to cultivate that fan base now because they're going a lot younger than 30 when they're going Nickelodeon. There's no doubt there. Miller and Moulton, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Where else but right here on the Florida Sports Network.
It's time for Dr. Roto's yearly house call, Tuesday, August 15th, 7 o'clock.